and strengthening public institutions. Specifically, we recognize a partnership with the Special Investigative Unit of South Africa through an MOU which we signed on the 14th of December 2025. The main objective is to enhance collaboration in the fight against corruption, economic crimes, tracing corrupt acquired assets, and reinforcing regional anti-corruption initiatives. If I just give a short overview of the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission and the 𝗖𝗢𝗢𝗡𝗡, because a lot of people confuse what is 𝗖𝗢𝗢𝗡 and what is EACC. These are two distinct agencies, although the 𝗖𝗢𝗢𝗡 Secretariat is actually run by the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. So for the visitors, the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission is the lead agency constitutionally mandated to combat and prevent corruption and economic crimes in Kenya through preventive measures, law enforcement, education and promotion of integrity and ethical standards. The national and regional commitments reinforces the importance of partnerships in private sector, civil society, and citizens. To operationalize this collaborative approach, EACC convenes and coordinates the Kenya Leadership Integrity Forum, 𝗖𝗢𝗢𝗡𝗡, a strategic partnership and initiative that brings together 20 sectors to advance integrity, accountability, and ethical leadership. 𝗖𝗢𝗢𝗡 was established in 2006, an equivalent of the South African National Anti-Corruption Forum, NACF, to contribute towards the establishment of national consensus through the coordination of sectoral strategies against corruption. I wouldn't mention the sectors because they will be introduced formally, but let me conclude by saying, in conclusion, this meeting represents more than a dialogue. It is a call to action. The discussions and deliberations yield actionable outcomes, strengthen existing partnerships, and contribute meaningfully to the broader agenda of ethical leadership and accountability. So with that, I now want to lay the agenda of today's meeting before the delegates here. So we have 5 items in the agenda. If you can project, please. If you can't see them, then the programs before you is actually our agenda for today. But if I may go through the 5 items. Number 1, preliminaries and adoption of the agenda. 2, confirmation of previous minutes, that is 57th minutes of the National Coordinating Committee, NCC, meeting which was held on 14th October 2025 and matters arising. 3, consideration of sector commitments to power the future of integrity and anti-corruption. And there are 2 items there. A is the result-based analysis of the Kenya Integrity Plan 2023-28 and sector commitments. B is the National Integrity Initiative and citizen engagement. So the 4th item in our agenda is anti-corruption insights and perspectives from South Africa, where we will receive a presentation from our chief guest. The 5th item is any other business. With that, I want to table this agenda for adoption and then hand over the program to the chairperson to proceed on with the deliberations. Chair, I've laid the agenda for adoption. Yeah.
Good morning, everybody. I am not the chair, an alternate chair. Our chair is on the way. She had another function this morning, and she has sent apologies for delay, but she hopes to join us in a short while, the Honorable Attorney General of Kenya, who will be joining us a little later. But in the meantime, I enjoy the privilege of being chair of this session. Thank you very much. Let me appreciate also all of you who have come this morning, particularly our guests who has come all the way from South Africa to join us this day as we discuss matters to do with how we can strengthen integrity, ethics, values within our nation, and to share with us her own experiences from South Africa. We look forward to that, and thank you, Madam Filde, for coming all the way to join us here this morning. I also appreciate all those who have been mentioned, both by name and by office. We have seen several senior government leaders among us, and we appreciate your presence here with us. Let me not go through the list again. Mine now is to call the session to order. We have been given the agenda that is there. We need to adopt the same so that we can proceed with the business of the day. Anybody who moves that adoption? Yes, I see your hand over there. Please say your name and the sector you come from, and then move for record purposes. Thank you very much. Seconded by? Right here at the front.
Good morning, Chair. I'm 𝗡𝗢𝗢𝗡𝗡𝗧𝗜𝗡𝗘, CEO of the National Taxpayer Association Kenya.
Thank you very much. We appreciate. Thank you. And so we move on now to our next item, which is the minutes. And I'll invite again our secretary to take us through the minutes.
So can we project the minutes for all of us to see? So as projected, these are the minutes of the 57th National Coordinating Committee meeting, which was held on Tuesday, 14th October 2025 at 10 a.m. at the Sarova Pan-Africa Hotel, Nairobi. So we can move on to the next page, which is the list of those who are present. We won't bother to read the names, so you can see, if you see your name there, you can probably just recognize yourself. If you don't see, you will see it in our next meeting. So we move on to page 2, page 3, and then on page 4 we have the secretariat. We also we had 18 members of the secretariat in that meeting, headed by Joyce Munene, who is the head of the Secretariat Forum. Then we had the agenda for that particular day. We had 5 items: a preliminaries and adoption of the agenda, confirmation of previous minutes, that is the 56th minutes of the National Coordinating Committee meeting, which was held on 14th May 2025, matters arising, consideration of the draft monitoring, evaluation and reporting framework for the Kenya Integrity Plan 2023-28, and then AOB. Let's move to page 5. Page 5. I think did we interact with these minutes before we came here? Any of you? Okay, I think we can go through together. They are not long. So we had minute 375 of 25, which was the preliminaries and adoption of the agenda. The meeting commenced at 10:40 a.m. with an opening prayer by Reverend 𝗖𝗢𝗢𝗡𝗢𝗡. Opening remarks. The meeting began with remarks as follows. NCC alternate chair, Dr. David Oginde, welcomed members and acknowledged the sector's the sectorial representation, conveyed apologies from the chairperson and the vice chairperson. Auditor General CPA Nancy Gadungu emphasized accountability as a cornerstone of governance and encouraged embedding accountability and citizen engagement across sectors. NCC Secretary Mr. Abdi Mohamud highlighted the following. 1, NCC remains central to advancing accountability and integrity through CLIF. 2, combating corruption requires coordinated multi-sectoral cooperation. 3, the Conflict of Interest Act 2025 should be actively implemented. Item 4, institutions taking proactive investigation measures were commended. 5, collaboration with the Independent Policing Oversight Authority, IPOA, and the National Police Service, NPC, in recruitment and oversight was acknowledged. 6, legislative support, particularly enactment of the Whistleblower Protection Bill, is crucial. 7, integrity systems must be institutionalized across all sectors. Then we had the adoption of the agenda. The agenda was adopted and proposed and seconded, proposed by Mr. Patrick Nyangweso from the National Taxpayers Association, and seconded by Mr. Stephen Cheboy from the National Federation of Public Benefits Organization. I think they are the same gentleman who also who also proposed today's minutes. That very dedicated members. So minute 376 of 25, confirmation of previous minutes. 56th minutes of the National Coordinating Committee, meeting held on 14th May 2025. The minutes of the 56th NCC meeting were confirmed with the following amendments. 1, retaliated, amended to reiterated. Then non-governmental organization council corrected to the Public Benefits Regulatory Authority of Kenya. I think we also had that correction today. Then item 3, updated reference to the Office of the Attorney General and State Department for Justice, Human Rights and Constitutional Affairs. Then minute 377 of 25, which was matters arising. Members agreed that matters arising should be addressed during the plenary discussion. Then we have minute 371, update on the coordinating committee. The NCC secretary reported the following. 1, an inception conference for sector coordinating committee was held on 19th August 2025 at the Kenya School of Government. The formation of 5 NCC working committees was finalized, terms of references developed, and presentation made outlining the sectoral and mandates. 1, the first sector was governance, regional coordination, and public administration. 2nd, justice, law, order, and anti-corruption. 3, enforcement, regulatory, financial services, transport, and labor. 4, resource mobilization and civic engagement. 5, education and social accountability. Key plenary observations: need to align TORs with the KIP 2023-28. Number 2 was the committee operations were noted to be standardized across all committees with uniform provisions on composition, governance structure, roles, and responsibilities, meeting reporting, and review mechanism. 3, inclusion of quorum provisions in TORs. 4, Absence of youth representation in committee leadership was noted, and measures to enhance the inclusivity should be considered. 5, proposal to diversify leadership of the Education Social Accountability Committee from the Teacher Service Commission with a provision to include higher education institutions. Responses: 1, committees follow standardized structure but differ on sectoral focus. 2, additional members, including the youth, may be co-opted. 3, governance structures refer to institutional roles and not individual roles. 4, stakeholders' roles and inclusivity will be reviewed. We move to the next page. Resolutions. Replace Teacher Service Commission with the Commission for University Education in Leadership. 2, introduce quorum provisions in TORs. 3, due to seniority of committee chairpersons, institutions should designate alternate chairpersons to ensure continuity in their absence. Minute 373 of 25, proposal for resource mobilization for implementation of the Kenya Integrity Plan 2023-28. Members were informed that institutions are expected to align budgets with the Kenya Integrity Plan. Minute 378 of 25, consideration of the draft monitoring, evaluation, and reporting framework for the Kenya Integrity Plan 2023-2028. The draft M&E framework for Kenya Integrity Plan KIP 2023-2028 was presented, covering the following: 1, policy, legal, and institutional frameworks. 2, monitoring, evaluation, and reporting structures. 3, automated M&E systems. Key plenary recommendations: 1, develop standardized reporting templates capturing targets, performance, and variance. 2, use both quantitative and qualitative indicators. 3, align with the national frameworks such as Kenya Vision 2030. 4, simplify the framework for usability across all levels. 5, introduce shared learning curricula across committees. 6, strengthen anti-corruption training and institutional capacity within ministries, departments, and agencies, and consider subsidized training costs under the National Integrity Academy for Integrity Assurance Officers and Corruption Prevention Committees. Clarifications were provided as follows. The training under the National Integrity Academy is free, with some courses attracting minimal fees. 2, the M&E framework already integrates performance tracking and result measurements. 3, tools are designed for usability at all levels, particularly for use of sector coordinating committees. 4, framework aligns with national priorities but will not cooperate non-national policy documents such as EACC Strategic Plan 2023-28. 5, committees were asked to develop sector-specific anti-corruption strategies. 6, members were informed of the upcoming SCC meeting scheduled for 22nd October 2025 to provide continuous capacity building support. Then we had A, B, and no additional matters were raised. The meeting was adjourned at 1:30 p.m. with a closing prayer. Chair, those were the minutes of that particular day, so we need to have a proposer and a seconder for adoption. Okay, let's have a proposer and a seconder. Not the same two. We can others. Just raise your hand and introduce yourself. Do we show the names again, those who are present? Oh, thank you, Judy. Introduce yourself, Judy. Thank you. Second. Oh, thank you.
Sophie Otieno, National Assembly. I second.
Thank you for so the minutes are confirmed. We move to matters arising. And Joyce, you can lead us there. Are there matters arising specifically identified? Can we have them projected? Are we? Who is supposed to project? Okay, proceed. Okay, thank you. Unfortunately, I don't have a copy, so I think I have to come down and proceed from. Okay, I can see there is something here. So we have matters arising from minute 371 on sector coordinating committee. The matters arising were the following: alignments of terms of reference with the Kenya Integrity Plan 2023-28. That one, Joyce, just come and take us through the matters arising, please.
Thank you, CEO. Maybe I should come up. Okay, I'll read the matters arising. Number 1 has been read. I'll read together with number 2 because we combined the action taken in number 1. Standardization of committee operations together with the alignment of terms of reference. The action taken was TORs aligned with KIP and all committee operations standardized. Number 3, inclusion of quorum provision in TORs. National Youth Council was included in the leadership of the Education and Social Accountability Committee. Number 3, inclusion of quorum provision in TORs. It was included quorum provision in the TORs. And the youth inclusivity in committee leadership, I have read the action. Then number 5 is designation of alternative chairpersons for continuity of working committee leadership. Due to seniority of the chairpersons, institutions were requested to nominate alternate chairpersons in the working committees. The matter arising under minute 373, proposal for resource mobilization for implementation of the Kenya Integrity Plan. Matter arising was resource mobilization for implementation of KIP. Sectors have aligned budgets with the Kenya Integrity Plan. Next, minute 378, we have consideration of the draft monitoring evaluation and reporting framework for the Kenya Integrity Plan. Matters arising, development of standardized reporting templates. Reporting templates were standardized and shared with the sector coordinating committee. Number 2 is adoption of qualitative and quantitative indicators. The framework integrates performing tracking and results measurement. That was clarified during the meeting. Align with national frameworks such as Kenya Vision 2030. The framework aligns with national priorities, but would not incorporate non-national policy documents, such as the EACC strategic plan. There was simplification of the framework for usability across all levels. The reporting tools were designed for usability, particularly by the SCC, the Sector Coordinating Committee. Introduce shared learning curricula across committees. The action taken. Introduce shared learning curricula across committees. That was a proposal, and we've been engaging the sector coordinating committee, especially the education sector, on that. Then strengthen anti-corruption training, institutional capacity within ministries, departments, and agencies, and consider subsidized training costs under the National Integrity Academy for integrity assurance officers and corruption prevention committees. There was a clarification that was made on the floor that integrity assurance officers and corruption prevention committees trainings under the National Integrity Academy is free, but law enforcement and leadership courses attract minimal fees. And just to let the stakeholders know, initially the National Integrity Academy, that was the name, but it has since changed to the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, and Anti-Corruption Academy, EACC. That's all on matters arising. Back to the chair.
Thank you very much for the presentations. Thank you, Secretary, and also Joyce. Any other matter arising from the minutes that has not been addressed with those that have been read to us? Any other matter that you noted and you needed to seek clarification or something? Yes. Again, say your name, please.
That was the name. Our name is new, and sorry for that, we are still learning. It is actually the National Federation of PPOs. Under the same law, we have the PPO Regulatory Authority, which is part of the regulatory team, and the National Federation is part of the civil society. It's the umbrella organization of PPOs. Thank you, Chair.
I hope we taken note. Those who are taking the minutes, please just correct that again. Any other matter arising? If there isn't, then we proceed with item number 3 on our agenda, which is going to be presentations on the consideration of the sector commitments to power the future of integrity and anti-corruption, result-based analysis of the Kenya Integrity Plan, KIP 2023-2028, and sector commitments that is going to be done by Ms. Joyce Monet, head of CLIF. Before she comes, pardon me, I would like to invite, where's Madam Pierce? There you are. Please come over. I have been notified that our chair sent you with a brief message to share with us. So if you could just come and do that. Thank you. It's Madam Pierce. No? Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you to you all protocols observed. I will just proceed to read the speech by the Honorable Attorney General, the Honorable 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 Director General of the Presidency and Secretary of the Cabinet, Republic of South Africa, let me say Baleni. The other one, I don't want to mispronounce. members of the National Coordinating Committee, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I believe it's still morning. Good morning. This is a message from the Attorney General. I am deeply honored to address you today as we convene the 58th National Coordinating Committee meeting of the Kenya Leadership Integrity Forum. I commend the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission for its continued coordination of this important platform. The Kenya Leadership Integrity Forum reflects our shared recognition that no single institution can win this fight alone. It requires a coordinated, multi-sectoral approach, bringing together state and non-state actors. Allow me to extend a very warm welcome to Ms. Baleni, Director General of the Presidency and Secretary of the Cabinet, Republic of South Africa. We are honored by your presence. Your experience in governance and public administration enriches our discussion, and we look forward to learning from your insights. As we deepen our engagement today, I wish to underscore the importance of strengthening international cooperation in the fight against corruption. Both Kenya and South Africa are state parties to the United Nations Conventions Against Corruption, UNCAC, and the African Union Convention on Preventing and Combating Corruption. These frameworks provide a solid foundation for collaboration in prevention, investigation, and enforcement. However, it is important to know that Kenya and South Africa do not have a framework for judicial cooperation in the fight against corruption. This presents a timely opportunity now that you're here, Madam, for us to initiate structured engagement towards strengthening cooperation, particularly in areas such as mutual legal assistance, asset recovery, information sharing, and prosecution of cross-border corruption cases. We therefore look forward to opening a constructive dialogue with our South African counterparts on establishing effective mechanisms for judicial cooperation and broader institutional collaboration. In this regard, the Office of the Attorney General and the State Department for Justice continues to strengthen the legal and policy environment necessary to support this collective effort. The Conflict of Interest Act and its regulations, now approved by Parliament, mark a major step in addressing conflicts between public duty and private interest is one of the key drivers of corruption. The Whistleblowers Protection Bill is still in process in Parliament. This will create a safe environment for reporting corruption and strengthening accountability mechanisms. In addition, we have reviewed the National Ethics and Anti-Corruption Policy in collaboration with the stakeholders and with support from the GIZ to ensure it responds effectively to emerging challenges. These reforms reinforce the broader national effort to strengthen legal frameworks, enhance institutional capacity, and promote ethical conduct across sectors. Our success will depend not on plans or policies alone, but on implementation. As we deliberate today, I urge all sectors to ensure that commitments are actionable. In closing, I extend my sincere appreciation to all members of this committee and CLIF partners for your dedication. Let us commit ourselves to building a nation where integrity is the foundation of governance, service delivery, and national development. I thank you and wish you productive deliberations. That is a message from our Attorney General. Asante sana.
The chairperson and the protocol as it was observed. Good morning. I'm glad to see all of you, and we don't take it for granted that you're committed to this forum. I was sharing with a colleague that forums, associations, at whatever level, they only have a very key and deliberate intention to converge, share ideas, and act. So we really appreciate all of you for your commitment. Allow me to lay a background before I share the presentation, that we met in April last month with the Sector Coordinating Committee just to assess the progress of the implementation of the Kenya Integrity Plan. And even though some institutions did not manage to attend the meeting, they shared data and information that is relevant to this analysis. So kindly allow me to share what the Sector Coordinating Committee proposed for our adoption or consideration. The presentation is structured into 5. The outline has 5 components. That is the strategic objectives, the results analysis chain, sector performance, gaps and lessons, and sector commitments. As earlier mentioned, that the Kenya Leadership Integrity Forum is guided by a strategic plan, the Kenya Integrity Plan. It is anchored on 4 strategic objectives. That's what guides the implementation. And the first is enhancing the capacity of CLIF to implement collective approach in the fight against corruption. It has 2 strategies: revamping CLIF and integrating CLIF in partner institutions, with key interventions, that is partnership frameworks being developed, coordination mechanisms, mainstreaming into the various development plans or annual plans, and also the monitoring, evaluation, and reporting framework, which we had mentioned. This is key because it brings out that coordinated approach under this forum. I'll move to the next slide, because the second strategic objective is strengthening policy, legal, and institutional framework. It has 2 strategies: the legal reforms advocacy, institutional capacity building, and those strategies are the ones that guide the sector interventions. In implementing those strategies, we have various interventions: strengthen anti-corruption laws, whistleblower protection, strengthen oversight bodies, and public participation law. The third is strategic objective, is promotion of ethics and integrity in public and private sector, with 1 key strategy: mainstreaming ethics and integrity, and having 4 key interventions. That is the anti-corruption policies being developed, awareness campaigns, integrity awards. We also encourage, we reward and award those who are holding integrity, and curriculum integration, which is key, especially in the education sector. Technology is letting me down, but yeah. Okay, so thank you. I think you'll stand here with me. There we go. The fourth strategic objective is promotion of ethics and integrity in the society with one key strategy, community and citizen engagement, with the key interventions being citizen empowerment on ethics and integrity, religious engagement, social accountability, and mentorship programs. For the mentorship programs, I would just wish to update that there's a draft, but awaiting approvals so that we also, in the sector levels, we implement mentorship programs. Allow me to speak on this, the results analysis chain, which examined the interventions, outputs, outcomes, and impact. And as a sector coordinating committee, there was an emphasis on us reporting on what changed as opposed to what was done. Us shifting from activity-based reporting to result-based reporting. For instance, if you conduct meetings, if you conduct trainings, if you conduct workshops, the output is those numbers of trainings and meetings. But if we can go forth and enrich our reporting to outcomes, then what changed from those meetings that you held? That was the emphasis from the sector coordinating committee. We had key outputs achieved, and maybe I should mention that this assessment of progress was only for 2.5 years, July 2025 to December 2025, because the Kenya Integrity Plan runs for 5 years. So what has happened between July 2025 to December 2025, and what lessons can we pick in moving forward in the next 2.5 years? That was the assessment that the committee was doing. And we can say there's progress at the institutional levels, this work is being done. And the output that was achieved from the data received is that we have policies and laws that have been developed. And such law is the conflict of interest, which was part of the interventions to be undertaken. We have policies at institutional levels that have also been developed and being implemented. Institutional frameworks were supposed to be established at sector levels, and we report that they were, the frameworks were developed. For instance, the service delivery charters, the standard operating procedures and such. Awareness campaigns were conducted by the various sectors, and also digitization systems were implemented. And as I move, you'll see which sectors were implemented what at a higher level. We have outcomes that were achieved. There was improved institutional systems. There was enhanced legal framework, increased public awareness, and enhanced collaboration. The reason why we are saying there was enhanced collaboration is because of the challenges that were faced in the previous Kenya Integrity Plan, 2019-2023. In a way, you can see even from the data that the sector coordinating committee has improved and there's more commitment than the previous. And in our view, from what they shared, over 117 institutions shared data, and we can see there was enhanced collaboration from the previous. We would say there's impact, though emerging, in the implementation of those interventions. And the first one is reduced corruption opportunities. We would say when institutions streamline their governance systems, For sure, as much as the impact might not be felt as much, the opportunities of corruption have reduced. We've also had increased reporting and detection of corruption and also maladministrations in different institutions. And the fact that people are coming out to report, there's a level of trust in those institutions. The last one is growing culture of accountability. And we are saying it's growing because the fact that institutions are requested to implement certain interventions, once they have done it and they implement according to what the systems have provided. Karibu, Attorney General. Karibu. So I was saying on the impacts emerging. So we would say broadly, as much as for us to get that effect in the country, we are moving now towards, in the next phase of citizen engagement. But as to what was shared, the data that was shared, we would say impact is emerging, and it's based on data. And it's just a demonstration that positive progress is there for the last 2.5 years. Sector performance based on what was shared for those 2.5 years. The high impact sectors, we would say there's judiciary and enforcement. And the reason for them performing high was because of digitization. There's a lot of digitization in those two sectors. Civil society and media have been doing a commendable job in terms of public awareness and also public litigation. Sheila and your team, well done. There was a lot that we can clap for them. A lot is really being done in that sector, but sometimes you do not see until you have data and information. A lot is happening. We have the education sector. I don't know if they're in the room. Kindly be upstanding. Thank you very much. We were taken through how they're integrating ethics and integrity at the different levels. And a lot have been done by the different learning institutions. And now what we're encouraging in the next implementation of the Kenya Integrity Plan is going to the universities and making a request on having a common unit integrated in their systems, and also engaging the people for them to be agents of change. And we believe in that. So those, according to the data that was shared, they've done well. We have moderate impact sectors, private sector. Judy and your team, Madam Judy and team shared very good data, and we highly appreciate. Professional bodies and oversight, they've also done quite a number of interventions to integrate ethics within the professionals. County governments, they've done something, as much as we might think there's a lot of corruption, but when it comes to governance systems, they've really adopted corruption prevention committees, because that is what was in the Kenya Integrity Plan. They were asked to create, to have integrity assurance officers. They've been doing all that. Whether it's translating to now other things is different, but according to the Kenya Integrity Plan, they have implemented. For the other sector, I would say that there's a reflective positive momentum in advancing integrity, accountability, and anti-corruption interventions. What we were saying as a sector coordinating committee, however little the institutions are implementing, whatever little they are doing, it's going a long way towards the outcomes and the emerging impact. So we highly appreciate that, and that's why we've reported as those are results. We cannot ignore however much little they are contributing to something. There were key gaps in the Kenya Integrity Plan that we noted, and we hope to, as we move forward even for the next Kenya Integrity Plan, it will be for considerations. Over-reliance on activities. We are relying so much on reporting on activities, like the way I've mentioned, number of meetings, number of trainings, number of this. So what was the outcome? Yeah, what was the outcome? What was the outcome? We need to get to a point where we are not reporting the numbers of meetings attended, held, how many conferences, how many workshops. We need to go to the outcome. And we hope we'll get there step by step. We had weak impact indicators, and they were focusing on outputs, as I'd mentioned. But we hope as we move forward, we'll go more to outcomes and impact. We had a limited baseline data owing to the challenge in the implementation of the previous Kenya Integrity Plan. We couldn't find as much data to work with, so we didn't have, that's why it's an analysis. And we have fragmented monitoring, evaluation, and monitoring and evaluation systems. I remember when, that was last year, we paid a courtesy visit to the Honorable Attorney General. One thing she was clear on was a monitoring, evaluation, and reporting framework for Kenya Leadership Integrity Forum. And I'm glad that it was approved during the last National Coordinating Committee. We've been able to share with the sectors, and I believe it will help us as we go in terms of determining, and in terms of reporting, standardizing reporting across sectors. For now, we might not change so much, but I believe this progress will lay foundation for the next Kenya Integrity Plan. They'll not start at zero, but they'll start somewhere. We have key lessons that despite some outputs and moderate outcomes, impact remains emerging and partial. We are not at zero. There's partial and emerging impact. We have digitization reduces corruption. That's a key lesson. Judiciary is so big on digitization, and we request that they keep strengthening that. Number 3, there is citizen engagement, but needs structure to enhance effectiveness. We noted from the various sectors, they are reaching out to citizens, but we do not have a structured way to engage, so that we see, as much as we are engaging them, is their impact. Then laws must be enforced. We also reviewed that we really have laws as a country, and one of the things that we can really do is enforce them. Another key lesson is that collaboration requires resources and sustained commitment. That's for sure, because most of the interventions, or some, will require money, resources, but even without resources, commitment. And the fact that we are all gathered here, it's a sign of commitment and collaboration, which we highly appreciate. So moving into the future, the sector commitments, what did the sectors propose? We would call it the integrity ecosystem map. That is all the sectors. I need not maybe go to each one of them, because in the next slide I'll talk of the commitments. But we are saying that if we can cluster them into 5 in terms of the mapping on who can implement more on certain spheres like governance, justice, the economy, the social sphere, governance, and regulatory. So we find each sector has a role to play. For the executive, the commitment they had and they proposed is and we are requesting, is to fast-track laws for assenting, especially those that are pending. The whistleblower protection, whenever if it's passed by Parliament, and the public participation. And the number 2 commitment is enforcing compliance on the various instruments that touches on integrity and ethics. and having integrity as a performance indicator across the government. The legislature they continue to strengthen oversight and lawmaking, and also fast track the two specific bills I've mentioned. And we were saying that it was proposed that they institutionalize public participation. As much as there is no law enacted, Parliament should consider institutionalizing public participation. Constitutional commissions, we request that they continue to safeguard accountability. For the enforcement sector, we request that there be operational integrity whenever you're undertaking investigations, prosecution, investigations and prosecutions. Let's uphold operational integrity. Judiciary, anti-corruption agencies and oversight bodies, commitments. Judiciary, we request they continue to strengthen digitization and case management so that it reaches, justice is administered across board. For anti-corruption agencies, there was a commitment for enforcement and asset recovery, and a proposal also to strengthen prevention audits and intelligence systems. Oversight bodies' commitment is audit and compliance enforcement. Private sector, enhancing ethics and compliance systems, ensure that the business ethics codes and integrity certifications are not developed but implemented. Financial services, they should enhance the fraud detection systems and the anti-money laundering and counter financing terrorism mechanisms. The labor sector, the workplace integrity and standards to be strengthened. For the professional bodies, the licensing, professional ethics and discipline. For licensing, let the professional bodies issue licenses to those that uphold integrity and undertake administrative action whenever the professionals are either convicted or they are caught up in scandals. Let them do internal part. Lastly, we have the media, civil society. Media is big on investigative journalism. We request that they continue and enhance investigative journalism because of the deterrence nature of it. The civil society, to enhance and strengthen the social accountability platforms. We've seen they are doing it, and it's just to request that they keep going. Education sector, apart from integrating ethics and integrity curriculum, they also ensure that the learners live by it. Then I mentioned about universities requesting that ethics be a common unit. Faith-based sector, we request that they use their platforms to inculcate values and also advocate for values, and they offer outreach programs that can educate the public. The citizens and youth leadership forums, they can also assist in those forums. Countermeasures, delivery and digitized procurement. We know there's an ongoing case in court, but they embrace the digitization of procurement. We request the post-audit recommendations and then public participation. For regular audits, we also request compliance, transport system, cashless systems be implemented, also so that they enhance transparency, and also enforce audit recommendations in that sector. This is my last slide as we usher in the next presenter. In the 4 strategic objectives that anchor anchor the Kenya Leadership Integrity Forum. The fourth strategic objective is promotion of ethics and integrity in society. We are proposing that as a sector, we be more coordinated in engaging the citizens, because citizens are the center of accountability, and empowered citizenry drives impact. We engage citizens. If we engage citizens, they'll create solutions that work for everyone. And because they are, the next presentation will speak more on that, I would stop at that and request the chairperson. Thank you very much. As he comes, the overall performance reflects that there is progress, there is commitment, and we have to acknowledge that. We can say we are at zero. So kindly let's clap for all the sectors, and we appreciate.
Thank you, Joyce, for that presentation. As we mentioned, or was mentioned to us earlier, we hope that you are taking notes. We are going to have a session where you can ask questions of clarification and anything else that you may want to add to the presentations that are being made. Let me take this opportunity to acknowledge the presence of our chair, the Honorable Attorney General, Madam Dorcas. Thank you. We received your very powerful message a little earlier, delivered by our peers. But now that you are here, you can also say something so that we hear your voice directly. Thank you. Welcome to just greet the people and say something. You know, I come from the church sector, and there's a man called John the Baptist. He was a forerunner. And when Jesus appeared, he said, I must decrease as he increases. So now I have been purporting to be chair. Now I must decrease as you increase. Thank you.
Hello, good morning. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry I came late because we had 2 meetings in the morning. I had to attend one in person, then I also had to chair another one again. So for that reason I was late, but I realized that this is as well also very, very important. And although the PS read my message, I thought it was important that I come to show solidarity, because we have to lead from the top. Thank you so much for being here. All I want to say is that fighting corruption is a shared accountability. We have to work together, and I also want to echo the last speaker by saying that we should not just be concerned about activities and outputs. What is the impact? Finally, one of the lessons we have learned at the Office of the Attorney General is that digitization really, really, really helps with corruption or perceptions of corruption. At the Office of the Attorney General, the department that deals with marriages, we have digitized about 3 processes. We brought in a queue system, just like in a banking hall. We have reduced the number of complaints by 99%. Because you are served on time, you know when you are on queue, we have displayed everything. By the end of this financial year, we are going to have 2 other initiatives that are going to reduce the walk-in clients by 100%, such that the only person who is going to walk to the Office of the Attorney General is the one who is going to get married under the civil law. So I want to confirm that digitization helps a lot. Digitization also helps with supervision. We have embraced digitization in most of our departments. So I will encourage all of us to embrace digitization. But although we are embracing digitization, how do we deal with the people who are behind the digitization? Because the more you digitize, the more corruption becomes complex. That is what the world is seeing. So at the end of the day, it is the integrity of the individual who is behind digitization. talk about technology, talk about AI, still there is a human being who is controlling a button. So at the end of the day, we must try to speak to the individual and the human being. And finally, yesterday, when we were inaugurating Justice Njoki as our candidate to the International Criminal Court, I think His Excellency, the President, said something that I would keep on repeating wherever I go. He said, and he picked it up from one of the speakers yesterday morning, he said that in a lifetime, a human being is born, who is you and me, I and you. This human being is given a voice by God, irrespective of what the voice is, how it is. It is expected that this voice, this human being, contributes something wherever you are, whatever you are doing, in whichever space. So each one of us must know that we have a voice. And this voice, we have been given an opportunity, whether as a parent, whether as a what, but as a human being. So how do I use my voice to make a change? How do I use my voice to impact? How do I use my voice to make the place safer for the person who is coming before me? So I think at the end of the day, let's ask all ourselves, let's ask us, we have a voice. In the space of fighting corruption, what are we doing with that voice? And with those few remarks, thank you very much for listening, and God bless us all.
Thank you very much, Madam Egi. You have added to that which you had already said, very impactful. What are you doing with your voice? We have been given a presentation, as Joyce mentioned. We gathered together in Naivasha last month with all the sectors under the sector coordinating committee. A very robust discussion. We had very, very good presentations from the various sectors and came to various conclusions that have been presented to us this morning by Joyce on behalf of the various sector members. And out of that, the presentation here has shown us some of the things that we are hoping the National Coordinating Committee can adopt, and we move forward in our collective responsibility of entrenching and strengthening integrity and also fighting corruption. So I'm going to pick up from where Joyce has left and share a few thoughts on how we can work together. I start first by looking at, I think technology is also not moving here. There we go. Let me start with the nature of corruption. Is somebody moving it or am I moving it? This digitization. Yeah, but I'm not pressing and it is moving. It's okay. Let's see. I think the responsiveness is not as good. No wonder Joyce was panicking. Are we all right now? Yes. Thank you. So I start with the nature of corruption. Corruption is a slow-acting destroyer. And I borrow this from the medical field. There are maybe medical people here, and I don't want to purport to be an expert. But I'm told that the worst killers in the medical field are diseases that are painless. cancer, when it's starting in your body, it is painless, you don't feel anything, you look normal. Diabetes and other such diseases, they eat you slowly. By the time it is discovered, usually you find that they have quite advanced in your body, and eventually they could end up taking your life. I believe corruption acts in the same way. It begins slowly. If you look at the history of our nation, we used to talk about it, but we were not feeling the impact. So the nature of corruption is that it is a slow-acting destroyer. It erodes institutions, it collapses trust, it distorts the economies so that things are not the value that they are supposed to be. Commodities cost more than they should, services cost more than they should, because inbuilt within that is what somebody else has put in as their private income, which was not supposed to be in. Ultimately, it triggers state failure, it triggers conflict, it also brings long-term stagnation to a nation. We can borrow examples from history. Our immediate neighbor, Somalia, with all great respect, there are many Somalis in our country, but the collapse of this nation was the result of endemic corruption that eroded governance structures. Public resources were stolen by well-connected political elites. Institutions were patronized by networks. The consequence is that was a total state collapse in 1991, those of you who would remember. And since then, there has not been a unified nation in the country of Somalia. Instead, there was birth of warlordism, non-functioning government, rise of gangs and terrorists that took over the nation as a result of poor governance and corruption. Haiti, a gang nation. Long history of corrupt governance, weakened institutions, personal enrichment by officials, misuse of international aid that was given to them. The consequence, again, total state collapse. No functioning government, rise of vicious gangs that have taken up the country. Kenya, we had the opportunity to go and assist. It was not an easy task. Inability to build resilient systems, repeated humanitarian crises, all as a result of corruption. The list goes on, and I don't want to be a negative news bearer of other nations. If I use these two nations that I've used here, just so that you know it's not out of malice or hate. Somalis are among us. And Kenyans, we must accept that these are hard-working people. Very entrepreneurial. If we are not careful, actually, they are going to overtake us. We used to think that the mountain is where business is created. We have since discovered that our neighbors are perhaps more entrepreneurial than others. But their nation collapsed. It is not hard work. It is integrity. Haiti, I was in China not too long ago, and we were sitting as delegates in alphabetical order. And K, as you notice, H comes before K. So H were right in front of us Kenyans. So I was sitting behind them. So when we introduced them, they turned around and said, thank you very much for sending your people to us to help us in our country. After that, they said, let's meet together. And we sat down and discussed and gave us update on what is happening. A great, wonderful nation and people, but has been overtaken by gangs because of lack of systems. The pattern of collapses across most nations is corruption produces a predictable cascade. Institutional decay, laws become optional. There are people who follow the law. There are those people who do not follow the law. They consider themselves either above the law or beside the law. Elite capture. Power serves private gain. So those people who get into power use it as opportunity for personal enrichment. It's a pattern. Economic distortion. Investment and productivity collapse because when people work hard and they can't get legitimate returns for their investment, systems collapse. People give up on hard work. Loss of trust. Citizens disengage. And many times, as in the cases that we have mentioned, and I can mention many others, they disengage. And eventually, thank you. I thought corruption was fighting back. Somebody switched me off there, but I'll continue, whatever happens. So this is the pattern that we see across nations, across the world, whether it is in Europe, it's in the Americas, it is in Africa, the pattern is the same. I can give you examples that I have in one country in Europe that totally collapsed because everybody got into corruption. The consequence was that everybody had money, but there was nothing to buy. Because the farmers had given up their production, there was no food. So they had to go to the neighbors. Money cannot be eaten, in as much as we seem to value it so much. So they had money, but nothing to buy. I was in Parliament when our president proposed the journey to Singapore, which now has become a byword. I have said it many times, right from that day when he spoke. When I was there, I was super inspired. I realized perhaps I was one of the very few who were inspired. Because I went to tell my people, I have listened to a speech that is so powerful. They were looking at me like, maybe it's because you're in government. No, it's not because I'm in government, but because I like audacious dreams. I like thinking outside of the box. I've seen what it can do to an individual, a group, or a nation when you think beyond what is possible. And that's what I heard as I sat there in Parliament that day as President outlined that dream. I prefer usually to personalize issues. So as I sat there and listened, knowing that I am part of government and also a member of this country, I asked myself, what if this dream were to actually happen? How would Kenya be like? And then I asked myself, what role do I have to play to make this happen. And from that time, I began to think and dream. And I looked at where Singapore was, and I want to just share briefly how this relates to us. Singapore was not always Singapore that we know of today. There was poor governance structures. A very strategic country, city country, that was the hub of trade routes from west to east and different other nations. Their port was very busy, but it was brought down by corruption. Poor governance structures, endemic corruption, especially in the police, in customs, in licensing. Weak accountability systems. Slow bureaucratic public service. The consequence was that the nation collapsed. Deep ethnic tensions developed between the Chinese, the Malays, the Indians, and other groups. There was inter-ethnic fights within the nation. High unemployment and urban poverty. Organized crime and secret societies had significant influence in the country. If you think we have a problem, Singapore was worse. It was terrible. What you see, the picture on my right, is the Singapore port. These are people offloading goods at the Singapore port. It could be Marikiti. You know what Marikiti is here for us. This is what it was in the early 60s. Singapore had collapsed. But there was a transformation that began to take place. There was a national outrage in 1965. Under Lee Kuan Yew, a young student from the UK, together with fellow leaders, they decided we can't allow our country to collapse. And 6 of them decided they were going to come and try and transform the nation. They did. And so under the leadership of Lee Kuan Yew, corruption was declared an existential threat. So anybody involved in corruption was a murderer, killing others. And so they were treated as such. Institutions were rebuilt. Meritocracy and enforcement became non-negotiable. You got into government position because you merited, not because you knew someone or you paid something. Excellence was instilled as a way of life. If you have ever been to Singapore, and I've been there several times, one of the young people once was speaking to us, and they say, we have no natural resources. Even our water comes from our neighbors. But what we export is excellence. That's what he told us. We export excellence, doing things well, and they do. So excellence was instilled as a way of life. Corruption was punished severely without mercy. The leadership of that country under Lee Kuan Yew decided nobody is above the law and nobody will be tolerated if they engage in corruption. Citizens became shareholders. The country was run as a business. And if you think it's just a story, I happened to be in Singapore one time when I had announced over the TV that this year the government made so much money in surplus, and this is how much is going to be distributed to the citizens as dividends for their shares. I thought to myself, Mwadhani witu, ngai fafa, will we ever get to this, where the government gives you dividends as a shareholder? They do. And no wonder people are committed to their country. The gentleman on my right, I just use him as an example. The power of integrity in Singapore. 𝗡𝗔𝗧𝗜𝗢𝗡𝗡 was the Minister for National Development in the early days of the development of Singapore. He was found to have engaged in corruption. As the investigations were going on, he decided to commit suicide. He shot himself and left a note for the Prime Minister. I have undermined my nation. I am not worthy to live. And he shot himself and died. The consequence of that commitment is that Singapore has moved from the picture on the left. This is the current port of Singapore. From where they were carrying things on their shoulders to where everything is digitized and digital. It is a transformation that took commitment and serious engagement. Is it possible for us? I believe it can. It can happen. A word from the Wahenga. Walisemaje? Vimeundwa. Nothing comes from nothing. For our guests, that saying says, if you see it floating, literally, if you see it floating, it has been built. It's because it refers to the doors and ships and boats in the sea. When you see them on the sea there, they did not just happen. Somebody built it. So we have a saying in Swahili which says, if you see it floating, it has been built. So if you see what happens in Singapore and other nations, it is because people committed themselves to build it. Nothing comes from nothing. It will not just happen. It will happen because we have chosen as a people to make it happen. This is our current Singapore. Sheila, you don't agree? This picture, not the one that is on the screen now, but this one. A few years back, this person pushing this mkokoteni, this cart, would have been a primary school dropout. Would have been somebody who never went to school at all. As we speak today, this person is a graduate of our universities. Is that true? This person that we see and laugh at is a university graduate. Some of them with a master's degree. I have met a few. I was speaking somewhere in Korogosho, and a young man came to me, and hearing that I'm chair of the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, he came to me and said, is there a way you can assist me? I said, who are you? So he was ready. In his pocket, he had an envelope with all his credentials. When you looked at that man, you would never imagine that he had seen the inside of a school. But he had an envelope, a graduate of Moi University. What was he doing now? Roasting maize on the roadside. That's where we are. A majority of us, if not all of us who are in this room, we live well. We have good income. Yes, you say end cannot meet, but you have something that at least you can pull so ends can meet. These guys don't have anything. If we do not do something, they remain there, just like Singapore. I believe that the dream that the president had was to move this person to get into this kind of place. It is not going to be done by a miracle. It is not going to come from heaven and fall upon us. It is going to take our collective responsibility. Is it possible? It is possible. It is possible. It has been done, not just in Singapore, here in Rwanda, now in Ethiopia, and in other few nations. It is happening. It can be done, but it takes our collective commitment. The only thing we learn from history is that it has something to teach us. People who don't learn from history repeat the mistakes of others. Let's learn from history. Edmund Burke, parliamentarian in UK, once said, when bad men combine, the good must associate. Else they will fall one by one, an unpitied sacrifice in our contemptible struggle. When bad men combine, the good must associate. Let me introduce us to Operation 𝗖𝗢𝗢𝗡𝗖. A strategic community engagement campaign for strengthening integrity through collective action, us working together. I don't know how somebody put it on the screen, on the banner behind us there. But those of you who don't know what 𝗖𝗢𝗢𝗡𝗖 is, this is the 𝗖𝗢𝗢𝗡𝗖, the hyena. Operation 𝗖𝗢𝗢𝗡𝗖 is a strategic community engagement to strengthen integrity through collective action. When I listened to His Excellency on that day, as chair of EACC, I felt that we cannot contribute to this as an agency. We must get everybody on board. And Cliff provides us with that platform that brings us all here together. Because we have been invaded, if you didn't know. We have been invaded by Mafisi. We have been invaded by hyenas. They are few but vicious. When we talk about corruption in our country, people think that every Kenyan is corrupt. We are not. The truth is we are not. There are few corrupt individuals in this country. And they are like hyenas, eating that which they have not worked for. That's what hyenas are. Like hyenas, the corrupt are predatory, they are stealthy, they are exploitative, but they must be stopped. Another word from the wise. The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing. The same Edmund Burke said. the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing. When we say good men, we don't mean the male gender. We mean for good people to do nothing. So Kenyans are crying out and saying, where are the good people in our country? Where are the good people who can do something about the transformation of our nation? What can we do? The good must associate. And the presentation that has been made for us coming out of the sectoral committees was a summary of some of the things we felt that could be done by the different sectors so that we can drive the feces out of this country. When we were discussing this, I see my friend there from KWS. He said, send them to us so that we keep them where they belong. They don't disturb the ordinary people in the public. Feces belong in the park under the watchful care of the KWS. That's where we need to stick these people. Let's move on. So, one of the things we need to do is educate the public on the effects of corruption. Many of our public members do not understand the effect of corruption. We have seen senior politicians, one of them, a man that I have admired for a long time, a senior lawyer, for that matter, standing and dishing out 200 shillings as people queue. And I'm thinking to myself, my friend, where did you lose it? We used to be in this fight together. How did it happen? But the public was struggling to get that 200 shillings. Mobilize citizens for vigilance and collective responsibility. Expose hidden corruption networks, the Mafisi Society. And finally, recover stolen assets and goods and redirect them towards public use. So we are going to ask for an enhanced commitment at national level. A whole government and society approach, institutionalized accountability frameworks, shifting from activity to result-based approach for national impact, 100% digitization of high-risk services, sector integrity awards, and citizen feedback systems. We want to strengthen result-based monitoring, institutionalized impact measurement, scale digitization, improve coordination and funding. What do we hope that this will achieve? One, there will be increased citizen education. We want to mobilize all of us to go out to the citizenry, educate them on the impact of corruption so that they become our watchdogs at the grassroots level. Number two, increase citizen-driven accountability, that our citizens right at the grassroots can monitor how CDF funds are being used, how bursaries are being distributed, how infrastructure funds are being distributed and how they are being utilized, to be part of that process and demand accountability. It is possible. Enhance ethics and integrity practices so that at every level we want to ensure that there is greater and enhanced practices of ethics and integrity. Institutionalize integrity systems across sectors so that every sector represented here will put within its system a framework for ensuring that integrity is enhanced. Madam AG just mentioned that digitization alone will not accomplish it. Who are the people behind the digitization? We need to look at those frameworks. 100% digitization of high-risk services. Reduced corruption opportunities. We look at all those loopholes that people usually take advantage of and try to seal them within our individual sectors so that we reduce, we may not eliminate, but at least reduce those opportunities that people take advantage of. Increase corruption prosecution. Those of us who are in the enforcement sector, the EACC, the DPP, the judiciary, how can we work together collaboratively to ensure that we increase the level of prosecution of those people who engage in corruption? There is no way, as long as we shield individuals, as long as we tolerate and we outmaneuver, we cannot get to Singapore. It will not happen. It took serious work for those people to turn the country around. Improve corruption perception index. Madam Sheila, tell us how we can do this. You are the one who put this thing in us. We want to see, can we get below 100? We are now at 130 in terms of the position, and points 30. Can we increase to 35? Can we increase to 40? Can we get to 50? It is possible, isn't it? If we work collectively together, it is possible. So we want to see, we want to increase our corruption perception index. What will that do? There will be increased public trust and increased foreign investment. Brothers and sisters, fellow citizens, this is our call to you today. Let us work collectively to make this happen in our time, in our generation. Thank you very much. I've forgotten who is coming next. I didn't carry my agenda.
Thank you, Chair. And maybe before that,
Distinguished
out of the two presentations, we have a request or a proposal for adoption by the National Coordinating Committee, which I thought the Chair will ask for proposer and seconder. If all sectors can have, we revise the Kenya Integrity Plan to incorporate citizen engagement frameworks across sectors. That we revise the Kenya Integrity Plan to incorporate an intervention of developing citizen engagement frameworks for integrity. Yes. He proposes. He seconds. So for purposes of minutes, we've agreed that we can revise the Kenya Integrity Plan to incorporate an intervention on developing citizen engagement frameworks for sectors on matters of integrity. The second proposal, I know there's an ongoing review of the National Ethics and Anti-Corruption Policy. We propose to have a dedicated chapter on citizen engagement. A proposed chapter on citizen engagement. Yes, PS. Madam Pierce has proposed that the ongoing review of the national ethics and anti-corruption policy to incorporate as a chapter, dedicated chapter on citizen engagement. Who will second?
Okay.
Kanomishimba has seconded. I think that will lay basis for our citizen engagements in a more structured way, because remember, one of the gaps we identified was that we have citizen engagement, but it's not structured. So I appreciate, and I think over now to introduce the next speaker. At the back, they have the digital way to introduce her.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Mississippi 𝗖𝗢𝗢𝗡𝗢𝗡, Director General of the Presidency and Secretary of the Cabinet, Republic of South Africa. Ms. 𝗖𝗢𝗢𝗢𝗡𝗢𝗡 was born in Soweto and raised in 𝗡𝗢𝗢𝗡. She is the first woman to hold this senior public service position in the Republic of South Africa. An admitted attorney and conveyancer with law degree from the University of the Witwatersrand. She began her legal career in private practice, where she became a partner in a medium-sized law firm. Her public sector career began in 1994 as a special legal advisor to the Gauteng MEC for local government and housing, where she worked on constitutional and administrative law. She then joined the city of Johannesburg in 1996, leading major transformation initiatives and establishing governance frameworks for newly formed municipal entities. Bellini went on to serve as CEO of Electricity Distribution Industry Holdings in 2003 and later as CEO of National Energy Regulator of South Africa, NERSA, in 2011, where she also held leadership roles in regional energy regulatory bodies. In 2015, she became Director General in the Gauteng office of the Premier of Gauteng Province, contributing to major provincial strategies, innovation initiatives, COVID-19 response efforts, and medical legal reforms, earning her a DPSA Betho Pele Award. Appointed in April 2021 as Director General in the Presidency, she oversees strategic coordination across government, manages cabinet processes, leads the Forum of South African Director Generals, FOSAT, and serves as the first head of public administration, helping to shape a professional and capable public service. She has served on boards of directors of various entities, including the National Urban Reconstruction and Housing Agency, NERCHA. Manufacturing, Engineering and Related Services (SEDA, MERCEDA), the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research, CSIR, and the Wits University Council. Distinguished guest, ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Ms. 𝗖𝗢𝗢𝗢𝗡𝗢𝗢𝗡, Director General of the Presidency and Secretary of the Cabinet, Republic of South Africa.
Thank you. Thank you. To the Attorney General of the Republic of Kenya and the Chairperson of the National Coordinating Committee of the KLIF, Senior Counsel, Honorable 𝗙𝗏𝗏𝗏. To the EACC Chairperson and NNCC Alternate Chairperson, Dr. David Ogende. To the EAC Commissioners that we met this morning. To the Acting High Commissioner of South Africa to Kenya, Ambassador Maroti Khopa, to the EACC Secretary and Chief Executive Officer of the NCC and NCC Secretary, Mr. Abdi Mohammed, to the Executive Director of Transparency International Kenya and NCC Vice Chairperson, Ms. Sheila Masinde, to all heads of institutions and chief executive officers from public and private sectors present here with us in all your eminence, to the distinguished CLIF sector members and participants, esteemed ladies and gentlemen, habari za asubuhi. I hope I didn't mangle that. Allow me to stand on all the protocol that has been observed for the day. It is a singular privilege to engage with you on South Africa's experience in promoting integrity in the work of government and on building anti-corruption systems grounded in institutional coordination, enforcement capability, and a whole of society participation. I feel very privileged that you allowed me today to sit in your meeting when you are dealing with your business and you didn't hide anything. If there's anything I'm taking away from here today, is that transparency is real. You can't have measures in transparency. So at the outset, allow me to commend the government of Kenya, the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, civil society, development partners, and citizens who continue to demonstrate determination in confronting corruption and promoting ethical governance. Forums of this nature are critically important because they create space not merely for speeches, but for reflection, accountability, most importantly, learning, and collective action, building the global coalition against corruption, which we all know robs countries of the development dividend. We meet at a particularly significant moment globally. Across the world, there are geopolitical tensions, there's economic uncertainty, there's conflict and instability, and all of that is reshaping international relations and development priorities. Developing countries increasingly find themselves navigating a world where development support is under pressure and economic vulnerabilities are deepening. Yet, within these shifts also lies the opportunity. African countries are being compelled to strengthen self-reliance, to deepen regional cooperation, and to build resilient institutions capable of advancing our own developmental agendas. In the speech of the PS on behalf of the Attorney General, she referred to the United Nations Convention Against Corruption, which we all know is a convention that establishes a comprehensive international framework to prevent and combat corruption. It remains the only legally binding global anti-corruption instrument and reflects a collective recognition that corruption undermines peace, it undermines development, it undermines human rights, as well as democratic governance. Similarly, the AU Convention on Preventing and Combating Corruption recognizes that corruption is not merely a legal problem, but as a threat to Africa's political stability, economic transformation, as well as social justice. So Agenda 2063 of the AU equally reminds us that the Africa we want must be built on accountable leadership, ethical governance, and institutions that serve citizens rather than private interests. So, if I turn to the South African experience, South Africa has been no exception when it comes to both experiencing and confronting corruption. A closer look at various corruption indices and related measurements over time has revealed that South Africa has had its fair share of challenges, which continue. At the dawn of democracy in 1994, South Africa adopted a multi-agency approach to corruption, and this was done by design. We have no less than 7 anti-corruption institutions, each one of them with its own unique mandate on anti-corruption, and no less than 17 pieces of laws to combat corruption. Madam Attorney General. Indeed. However, in our 30-year history, we have now realized some shortcomings of this architecture. And currently in the country, there is a raging debate about this anti-corruption architecture that we have for the last 30 years. We have a national development plan which contains Vision 2030 for the country. And in that national development plan, we have a chapter that specifically talks to fighting corruption, even though there are other areas in the national development plan where the fight against corruption is canvassed. But the vision set in the NDP for South Africa is that South Africa should be a corruption-free society by 2030. A corruption-free society with a high adherence to ethics throughout society and a government that is accountable to its people. This chapter further emphasizes strengthening anti-corruption agencies, protection of whistleblowers, enhancing transparency in public procurement, and promoting accountability across society. The NDP recognizes importantly that the fight against corruption requires the collective involvement of government, business, civil society, and citizens. Now let me unpack this multi-layered and multi-agency constitutional architecture, where responsibilities were deliberately distributed across institutions according to functions. The system is structured around the 4 operational pillars of fighting corruption, so prevention, detection, investigation, and resolution, which includes, amongst others, prosecution. The last part includes prosecutions, disciplinary proceedings, asset recovery, as well as internal control system improvements. So under the pillar of prevention, for public servants, we have a Department of Public Service and Administration, the DPSA, which enforces all ethical frameworks for public servants. This includes financial disclosures for public servants, all SMS, senior management service, from director up to the Director General, so that's 4 levels. And then staff that work in high-risk areas, procurement, licensing, and those types of areas. Well, recently we've added the police. All of those do financial disclosures and lifestyle audits. We are in the process of rolling the system down to other levels within the public service. The DPSA also administers the disciplinary codes and strengthens integrity systems in the public service. We then have the Public Service Commission that monitors the conduct and investigate breaches of ethical standards within the public administration. National Treasury finance people have passed 2 laws in the country. We've got the Public Finance Management Act, which regulates provinces and national, and then the Municipal Finance Management Act that regulates the local government sector. And these laws regulate the internal control environment by promoting accountability, transparency, proper financial oversight, and effective risk management, thereby intending to limit opportunities for corruption before it occurs. However, I will come back to this point when I speak about the commissions of inquiry that we've had in the country, where it's been discovered that, in fact, the Achilles heel of the country are these very laws that actually stop corruption. Within the detection pillar of corrupt activities, it's primarily driven by, we've got an entity called Financial Intelligence Center, which analyzes suspicious financial transactions, produces intelligence reports for law enforcement. Importantly, we also have the Auditor General of South Africa, AGSA. We spoke about her earlier with the Attorney General of Kenya, of the Republic of Kenya. And the Auditor General, the Auditor General is the Supreme Audit Institute of South Africa and provides constitutional oversight by auditing public expenditure and identifying irregular, fruitless, and wasteful expenditure. Now, if I pause here a little bit to indicate that the Auditor General of South Africa, together with 7 other entities, are provided for in Chapter 9 of the South African Constitution, and we, for short, call them Chapter 9 institutions, but the institutions that were set up in order to support democracy in the country. So, over and above this work of doing ordinary audits, the Public Audit Act in South Africa was amended and legally mandated the Auditor General to start enforcing consequence management for what is called material irregularities. Under the Public Audit Act, an MI is any non-compliance or fraud that causes or is likely to cause a material financial loss, misuse of public resources, or substantial public harm. If the MI involves complex criminality or fraud, the AGSA may refer the matter directly for to public investigative bodies, such as the SIU or the NPA. However, the AG may issue directly acknowledgement of debts against individuals who are responsible for material irregularities in the system of government. We are sitting at a point where they've issued about 20 now, where heads of department have just been issued with AODs. You owe government so much, this money was lost, under your supervision, pay it back. And that AOD is equivalent to a court judgment. So then the AG doesn't have to go and issue summonses in court, they can collect directly based on that. And all of this is being done to enhance accountability. We also have another another Chapter 9 institution called the Public Protector of South Africa. It's equivalent or akin to an Ombud office, or in fact it is an Ombud office, an independent Chapter 9 institution that is there to whose mandate is to investigate, report, and redress any improper or prejudicial conduct, maladministration, or corruption in all state affairs and public administration. Together, these institutions generate the evidence base that triggers law enforcement. I'm going to speak later about the Zondo Commission, and I'll give you the full official name of it. That commission arose as a direct recommendation of the public protector, who had to go to court for the court to determine the strength and the standing of their recommendations or their actions. So over and above these entities, we also utilize judicial commissions of inquiry quite substantively in the country. There's a Commissions Act, and the president, in terms of the Constitution, can appoint judicial commissions. They also contribute significantly to the to detection and covering systemic corruption and governance failures. The most prominent examples that I'm going to quote today is the Judicial Commission of Inquiry to Allegations of State Capture. As indicated, this one was chaired by retired Chief Justice Zondo. It stemmed directly from recommendations of the public protector. At the time, it was Advocate 𝗖𝗢𝗢𝗡𝗠𝗠𝗠𝗠, who, after conducting certain investigations, she was convinced that there was a phenomenon of state capture in the country, and Justice Zondo was appointed to run this commission. The most prolific and substantive investigation commissions that we've had in the country. We have had a commission of inquiry into the Public Investment Corporation of the country, which is meant to enhance business and economic development. It manages actually the government employee pension funds and invests on behalf of the GEPF. We also had a commission of inquiry into the tax administration and governance by the South African Revenue Services. It was chaired by Judge Nugent, Robert Nugent, and the recently retired commissioner of SARS implemented all those recommendations. And we have a judicial commission currently on the go into the criminality, political interference, as well as corruption in the criminal justice system. That's being chaired by Justice Mphuiseni Madlanga, who's a recently retired Concord judge, who was also the Deputy Chief Justice when he retired. These commissions have played an important role in exposing corruption networks, identifying institutional weaknesses, and recommending corrective as well as criminal justice and interventions. So whereas the Zondo Commission ran completely from beginning to end, and the report was handed over, and thereafter remedial measures were effected, with the Madlanga Commission, the terms of reference said, as you pick up malfeasance during the commission, recommend action and take action against those people. And this is on TV, it's almost like a soapy. I'm sure everybody has been following that. We've seen there's an anti-crime activist in the country who's issued a list. 30 senior police in South Africa have been suspended on account of Madlanga alone. And the corruption is not only in SAPS, it's just emphasized within the South African Police Service as well as municipal police services. We do that in other parts of the value chain of the criminal justice system in the country, there are problems, and we're looking forward to the recommendations of the Madla Commission. When it comes to investigations, there are several specialized bodies. So you have peers over responsible for investigations into crime, but because crime and corruption are the same thing, even though all is criminality. We have for crime investigation, popularly known as in the country, that are located within the SAPs, that investigate serious corruption, organized crime, as well as commercial crime. With the special investigating unit, we currently have one. However, in terms of the way the Act is, it is called the Special Investigation Units Act. So it is conceivable that we could have more than one special investigation unit in the country. However, we have chosen to appoint one and expand the act. So SAPS and DPC focus more on the criminal aspects of corruption. The SIU focuses more on civil litigation, civil recovery, as well as disciplinary proceedings. However, when they meet criminality in their investigations, particularly in procurement irregularities, they are also the relationship where they then refer all of those matters to the law enforcement agencies, including the prosecutorial authorities in the country. The SIU also has the ability to recover what we call civil recoveries through freezing orders. They have really earned their keep because they have recovered money running into billions of rands in the country from malfeasance. The biggest amount related to the protective, personal protective equipment, PPE, during COVID. Chairperson, you spoke about how corruption is negative. Here's a virus, it's killing the world, it's killing the nation. Some people see an opportunity for corruption and they go for it. So PPE was one of the biggest, and they continue to date with those cases. They're finding the people, they're getting the money back, they're attaching their assets, and people are going to prison for that. We were also requested to cover, as I've been listing the entities in South Africa, there's an entity that we were given a mandate to cover in our talk, which is the IPID, the Independent Police Investigative Directorate. It's slightly out of character with the ones that I've spoken about because all the others are focusing on corruption. IPID is an entity that was established by virtue of legislation and Act passed in 2011 called Independent Police Investigative Directorate, and its mandate is independent oversight that over police, and police as municipal police, in relation to corrupt police. So not so much corruption is dealt with by internal affairs within the states and within municipalities. Sometimes corruption matters get referred to IPID and then they refer them away. IPID was of the history of a police service that was just used to jackpotting communities and injuring society and injuring a lot of people that were in their hands. So against that backdrop, an oversight body was established to ensure that when police use violence, it is met, it is commensurate. And if it is deemed to be excessive, the police also pay the price for that. So if I just footnote that as the mandate that we were given to speak about, I do want to revert back to the talk on corruption. So we spoke about the three pillars, the four pillars: prevention, investigation, then prosecution. Within the pillar, what we've got is the National Prosecuting Authority in South Africa, autonomous entity, where we're currently completing issues of institutional autonomy. However, they do have prosecutorial autonomy. Within the NPA in South Africa, we have two key structures that assist with fighting corruption: IDEC, the Independent Directorate Against Corruption, as well as the Asset Forfeiture Unit. So the Asset Forfeiture Unit is exactly that. They go for assets that were obtained through the proceeds of crime, and they attach those. The funds that come out of that are put in a special account. We have an account that we call CAP in South Africa, where is put there, and that money is put back to the law enforcement agency to strengthen them in their fight against corruption. IDEC was established as a direct result of recommendations of the Zone Commission, as I spoke to earlier. I'm sure colleagues would say to me, what happened to the scorpions? So initially in South Africa, we had the Directorate for Special Operations, which was a combination of investigators and prosecutors, and the entity was very effective, was very prolific in terms of finding people who were committing corruption in the country. However, in 2008, that was changed, and arising out of the fallout around the scorpions or the DSO, you now have the DPCI within with the NPA. So the difficulties and the challenges of entities that fight corruption are not unique to a particular country. It looks like it's just general experience in the world, and people keep reshaping them in order to be able to reduce attention, I suppose. So generally, what we have learned is that the distributed system in South Africa that we have, it does create strength in the sense that there are a number of layers of organizations that will catch you. It doesn't matter where you are. However, they introduce a lot of complexity into the system. We have sometimes even tensions amongst the various entities. However, we have insisted on coordination. So the mandate of the presidency constitutionally is coordination. So we have looked at various parts of the system and insisted that there are coordination mechanisms that are created. So for instance, we have something called the Fusion Center. The Fusion Center is built on the back of the Financial Intelligence Center. Colleagues will remember that is the one that enforces trades in the country. But there are some other smallish intelligence bodies at various parts of the system. We've consolidated them. The Fusion Center, they've consolidated their technology so that you can see on one window whatever movement within the entities. And as indicated, the Fusion Center was of the investigations into COVID, PE corruption, but it's proved to be a very strong lever for the fight against corruption in the country. Another example of institutional coordination that we have is the investigation and recovery linked to state capture cases involving various entities. So what happened is that the LIU has run the civil investigations, the NPA ran the criminal prosecutions, and the at the center. There has been entities like McKinsey had to pay back more than 1.1 billion rands to South Africa. It was discovered that it had been corrupt. So often it looks like corruption happens in the public sector. In the private sector in South Africa, we have the story of Steinhoff. Steinhoff was a multi-million empire, a private entity that had investments in diverse sectors of the economy. Finally, where the South African Financial Division prepared the organization of over 5 billion rands, while enforcement agencies paid related financial crime investigations, and these cases, detection, investigation, enforcement, and asset recovery can function across institutions. Jackson, the founder of who was CA, eventually killed himself because when all of this came out, the agencies were looking for South Africa, looking for him, looking for him. When all those agencies got, it became too much, and the individual killed himself. But he really a number of people and money and investors, a lot of serious misgivings in big companies in the country. We were also to talk to relating to the task force. Just briefly to say the body that assesses countries which is on fight compliance. In 2020, South Africa was taken through a mutual evaluation report, which revealed that although the legal frameworks were in place in South Africa, effectiveness was weak across all immediate outcomes, as they call them. This report found in prosecuting complex money laundering cases, weak beneficial ownership transparency, and use of financial intelligence and ineffective supervision of financial such as estate agents and NPOs. These weaknesses reflected structural challenges that developed during the state period when crime operated with limited disruption. As a result, South Africa was placed on the 5th grade in February 2023, requiring a 22-point action plan across 8 strategic areas. We responded as a country to this because you can imagine that undermines the investment grade of a country and the stability of a country. The response was institutional and coordinated, and we reported quarterly, which is cabinet. The functions were established at the CPIC, the Intellectual Property Commission of South Africa, as well as the Master of the High Court, who manages trusts in the country, enabling identification of real owners behind trusts. The over and increased inspections significantly. The PC and increased investigations into complex financial crime, while the NPA increased prosecutions of money laundering cases involving professional enablers. The fusion center that I referred to earlier strengthened coordination between intelligence enforcement agencies. What we, for instance, with that type of work and within the fusion center, requests for financial intelligence increased from 10 before the Great to 60 by 2025, demonstrating increased operational use of intelligence. By 2025, FATF conducted an on-site verification visit in the country and had confirmed that all 22 action items were addressed or largely addressed. And on the 24th of October, South Africa was officially removed from the grey list. This outcome wasn't just symbolic, it reflected measurable improvements in enforcement, effectiveness, institutional coordination, and financial system integrity. Laws were measured to pass laws, but in this instance, omnibus legislation was amended where we picked up pieces of provisions from various in order to be able to amend those so that we are able to create specific ability for authorities to be able to prosecute. So at the moment, we are out of the conflict. We are for the next visit. However, informed. What is symptomatic. We need to act systematically within the system of government so that as we subscribe to the high standards of finance and ISO, it becomes the normal of doing things and thereby disrupt opportunities as well for corruption. On the Transparency International Perception Index, the country is not doing too well. But we are number 81 out of 182. For us, that's not good enough because we have slipped from the 30s over the last 10 years to 81. So we would like to go back to the 30s. In fact, we'd like to go right to the front of that, of those ratings. But use that conscience to remind as a country, and let me find it properly, we continue to slip on Transparency Index, Transparency International Perception Index. We take it seriously and we utilize it to measure performance, although we are not recognized in measuring performance as I saw when present here, and that's a lesson we're taking away from here. Civil society and citizens play a central role in the anti-corruption ecosystem in the country. Investigative journalism, I'm sure a lot of you would be aware of them. They're writing books by the pages. Whistleblowers, civic organizations have exposed procurement fraud, triggered investigations, and supported accountability processes. Their role is particularly important in early detection and public accountability. However, what we found, like you have, that whistleblowers often face retaliation, they face prejudice, their lives suffer because of their whistleblowing activities, and as a country, we have recognized that and recognized the importance of legal protection frameworks. We do have an act in South Africa for protection of whistleblowers. It's called the Protected Disclosure Act, the PDA. The act, however, was limited in that it was predicated on disclosure of malfeasance in an employment environment. It wasn't really clear how civil society and members of the public would participate therein. There were also other weaknesses in relation to the protection and provision for the disruption that occurs and as a result of being a whistleblower. So the act is being amended, has recently been approved by Cabinet, and it's out for public comment as we speak. And this is just part of also responding to the State Capture Commission findings. South Africa has a national anti-corruption strategy that it adopted in 2020. This strategy is built on a whole-of-society approach, recognizing that corruption cannot be addressed by the state alone. This approach was operationalized through the National Anti-Corruption Advisory Council. The National Anti-Corruption Advisory Council is a structure that's meant to advise the president. It's a civil society-led governance structure, and it was built into the National Anti-Corruption Strategy. As I indicated, the primary objective of NACAC is to provide independent oversight, advice, advocacy, and civil society mobilization to fight corruption and to promote integrity within society. This structure embodies our shared responsibility to combat and eradicate corruption. It plays a key role in proactively implementing measures to prevent and detect unethical practices and to ensure that our primary priority is to enhance the quality of life for the most vulnerable. And most significantly, those remain safeguarded. So the members of the civil society body were drawn from various groups in society, including professional bodies, business, labor, academia. The chairperson of that structure was Professor 𝗖𝗢𝗢𝗡𝗔𝗓, who is currently the acting Minister of Police in South Africa. But at the time he was appointed to the body, he was a professor of law at university. We had faith-based organizations, we had non-governmental organizations, we had traditional leaders and young people and everybody serving on this structure. I'm talking about it in the past tense because the term of office has elapsed and we're in the process of appointing the next advisory council. This council actually did visit with the EACC. I'm sure commissioners would recall that they did. They have made several recommendations in their closeout reports, including suggesting a single agency anti-corruption architecture. And as I indicated, the debate is raging in the country about whether the multi-agency system is working or we should shift to the single agency. So Zondo recommended a single agency, even though in the end he proposed two. NACAC believes in that, and they have done some work, and that report is currently being processed. Government in South Africa has also partnered with business, not only in the fight against corruption. There are other areas where it has partnered with business, but there's a specific focus area on crime and corruption, and this is called the Joint Initiative on Crime and Corruption, the JIC. Now, partnership in the fight against corruption becomes tricky because sometimes even private sector gets involved in corruption and all of that. So we are treading that fine line of ensuring that we do impact structures that have bespoke mandates to fight corruption and investigate and prosecute. However, we have accepted assistance from business in building some of the capability that our law enforcement agencies need. So for example, through this partnership, we have been able to establish a digital evidence unit, which is something that we didn't have in the system of government. And it's established as an independent non-profit entity, and all government structures can utilize it and draw it. In addition, this JICC facilitates transfer of specialized forensic skills to public investigators, where, for instance, in the DPCI, we were able to see the DPCI being able to hire chartered accountants in the country who came in and drove forensic accounting investigations from within the system of government, which is something that we wouldn't have been able to do if we were just alone as government. So overall, what message are we driving? What lessons have we learned as a country? Enforcement outcomes, including prosecutions and convictions of senior public servants and executives involved in procurement corruption, have started happening. As I said, most of these things happen on television. So we have seen people who were MPs, but who before had been accounting officers and executives in SOEs. All of those people are now facing charges. And in most instances, it's thanks to the DEU that we were now able to string together coherent charges against former CEO of Transnet, former CEO of ESCOM, CFO, and a whole lot of other players. However, we do realize that that's still a drop in the ocean. We do have to up the fire, and we cannot afford to remove the pedal, the foot from the pedal. The Department of Public Service and Administration strengthened its disciplinary enforcement mechanisms for public servants. We are now keeping a blacklist of public servants, because what we had found was that somebody would commit crime in this one organization, particularly local government, come into national, or commit it at national, go into local government. The system of employment in the country is bifurcated, national and province, public service, local government as its own. So we found that because the systems were not talking to each other, people were able to join the sewer pipes. There are a number of legislative and institutional reforms that we have effected, in the process of effecting, following the recommendations of the Judicial Commission of Inquiry into allegations of state capture, the Zondo Commission, and we are working on strengthening the anti-corruption work. With the Zondo Commission, what we have done, because often society is skeptical, and we can't blame them. They say you establish a commission in order to remove it from our gaze. So what we have done in the presidency is to set up a mechanism of tracking the implementation of the recommendations of the Zondo Commission. We will do the same for Manga, and we are catching up on all the others, just double checking if all the other previous commissions have been properly implemented. But on the Zondo one, the judge himself had recommended that we report to Parliament as well as to the public. So through Parliament, our reports would then be available to the public. And we are beginning to show some value for money. As indicated previously, the Protected Disclosures Act is currently under amendment. In conclusion, I'd like to just say that our experience as a country demonstrates that anti-corruption effectiveness is determined not by the existence of a single institution, but through the strength of coordination, clarity of mandates, enforcement capability, and societal participation. The FATF exit, the institutional reforms, and the enforcement outcomes collectively show that progress is possible when systems are aligned and supported by political will and citizen engagement. Now, all of those concepts I had here today. So this fight is universal, its features are universal, and if we just hold hands. Finally, I do like to say that ultimately corruption is not only a government's failure, it is a denial of development opportunity and dignity. The question for all of us remains whether our institutions are as organized and resilient as the networks that we seek to confront. Whether our societies are equally committed to promoting and protecting integrity and fighting corruption. Wisdom, like the baobab tree, is such that no one individual can embrace it. So we appreciate the opportunity to share. We appreciate the opportunity to come here and learn. We have learned, we have heard. Asante sana.
Another round of applause for our chief guest. And a lot of applause for all the speakers who have taken them for the Thank you. We've been listening. We have had many years have come through. But we have not had an opportunity to share our views. So because of that, because we were taught when bad men combine, the good must associate. We have been told about the 6 Singaporean students in UK who have to come together and discuss a strategy to save their country, Singapore. Unless we have a discussion, then some of the resolutions which we have already agreed on, because we had some of the proposals proposed and seconded, it is good to enrich that discussion through a short plenary discussion in which we can give some suggestions. We can even ask for clarifications on some of the very innovative ideas which have been shared here. If it is, we will be the whom you want to respond to that specific issue. This is the request our chief guest, in case a question comes to me that this was merely an internal business meeting, we will kindly request you to respond because of the experience that you have been able to share. So we open this show for purposes of that interaction. Just introduce yourself, indicate your sector, then make your question or ask a question. Then we will have the speakers respond. Let me make the secretariat speakers can be facilitated to make their observations. But I've not seen members of the secretariat moving. So moving. Remember, start with the control of budget. Dr. Kanko.
Thank you very much. My appreciation to the presenters and the speakers, and allow me to ride on the protocol so I won't be repeating. I have a question and a comment. First to Joyce Munene, the head of CLIF, on the report that she gave us, which unfortunately did not have any measurements. I believe that for us to talk of enhancement, we must show the A and the B. So how did we enhance? From where did we move? And where are we now? And where are we going? So there are 3 elements there that were lacking. And I would like to hear a comment on that. Then on Dr. Oginde, he took us through the Singapore route. And I'm happy to say I'll soon be going to Singapore, for real, to see what is there, thanks to EACC. Now, I had a comment on doing root cause analysis. I did not hear, you gave us about 7 areas that we should address. You did not give us any research, which I believe is very, very important in understanding why people become corrupt, what should be done about it. All these are researchable areas, and we should be having papers telling us what we have found, what people are telling us, why they become corrupt, and what can be done. This then will give us evidence to base our recommendations on. Until we have we may not make proper recommendations. One also to Dr. Oginde is that sanctions must be moderated by reward. You only gave us what we should do to corrupt people. But what should we do to those who are not corrupt and those who behave ethically? How are we rewarding them to reinforce proper behavior? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Nyoka, for those 3 questions. We have a hand on that other side. Introduce yourself and proceed.
Thanks so much. My name is Vincent Kimoso. I am from the Kenya Christian Professionals Forum. I have 2 questions and one suggestion. Let me begin with a suggestion. This directed to Dr. Oginde and Joyce Munene. If we had to be very effective in the fight against corruption, I see 4 things, and one, a lot has been discussed, but there's one thing, Bishop, let me say Chairman EACC, that is missing, and that is the place of political will. So the others are policies and laws, which we've talked about, systems and structures, values, culture and leadership. Those have been captured. I see it in the strategy. But what I don't see in the strategy, Bishop, is the place of cultivating political will and capital for the fight against corruption. And I'll share a personal experience. I was told by somebody who is in government, we don't need you in government now. We need you when we are the right time. And just following to our control of budget has said, the place of celebrating those who are doing the right thing. And Bishop, if you look at the strategy of, maybe I just share this. I was here when Cliff started. So we are in 88, and let me share the dream. When we started, Bishop, it was not even Cliff to be at the center of the celebration. It was the sectors reporting for joint accountability. You Mrs. Judiciary will do this. Today, at the center of the presentation is Cliff. I think we need to rechange even the structure of Cliff so that the sectors, we can do a peer review, holding each other accountable. The other thing that I also wanted to point out is we have, the Auditor General does a very good job with the reports that we have seen, and I'm in a committee, and at times there is a frustration, Bishop, whereby the non-implementation of this recommendation, a lot of investment has gone this. And this is one of the things that I just want to challenge EACC. On compliance with Chapter 6 of our Constitution, we have made it a legally based. Bring the following documents. KRA, all the thieves can meet those Chapter 6 requirements. Unless the compliance of Chapter 6 goes to moral, whereby Sheila, so numbers 1, 2, 3 people are not eligible to run for election. The real price for corruption is denying people opportunity to join public office. Today, if you look at the compliance, just bear with me, sir, it's because it's burning in my heart. If you look at those Chapter 6 requirements, help, where is the water? Sorry, it's an international meeting, so let me speak English. All the thieves can meet those requirements. In fact, Bishop, I recommend, instead of Fukuza Fisi, we have Jambazi. You know, there's even a song, System ya Majambazi. Because of, as in, I am looking at, it has to be an elevated conversation so that we rally people towards seeing that indeed, because at the moment, as we go to 2027, corruption is rewarding, people are organizing how they'll take up government, even giving positions, and people are investing through funding corruption.
Thank you, Kimoso, because we want to give opportunity to others.
I'm sorry for long, but...
Thank you. The Vice Chair of CLIF, Madam Sheila, initially will be answering questions, but because your eye is is up. Madam Sheila.
All of the participants as well. Good afternoon, everybody. Munalinda fisi ama munawinda fisi? Munalinda fisi ama munawinda fisi? Munawinda. But I think Kimosop, my former colleague at TI, has a strong point in terms of I think, the thought process around this. But I am really encouraged, Chair, that we are thinking of a joint campaign as CLIF, because as Joyce was presenting, I thought to myself that there's a lot of individual, institutional, sectoral work happening, but we need to see, are we going to have a campaign as CLIF? And I think the time is nigh, the time is right. We are going into an election next year. Are we going to chase away those feces, or are we going to linder them? And we must make that determination as the people driving, the people in this room driving change. I see us as those 6 students that drove change in Singapore. But the Chair, you have almost taken me to Singapore. I am one of those who would hear Singapore. I say, why do you want to go to Singapore? And it had become so politicized, and many of us have said we are not boarding. But now they have sent Chair, and I almost feel like my one leg is half into the plane. But because I think you have given a very strong context, and also the justification of why we need a campaign, a behavioral change campaign, that is citizen-centered, that is collective, done by all of us. And next year we have an opportunity. So I just want to encourage the institutions that are responsible for vetting, aki tukaze mkono, tufanye kazi. As a civil society, we'll do our red card. We always do the red card. We will name and shame. Of course, we always fame. We also fame. Every year we fame and award those people who are doing the right things. So, control of budget, we have been celebrating. We've invited you before. Maybe this year you'll come. We celebrate them, but we don't hesitate to name and shame them. And we must go beyond naming and shaming them to denying them those opportunities to continue to lead. Because for me, that presentation by Chair, what I would add, look into integrating it into the Kenya Integrity Plan, is what are we going to do to ensure that those people are locked and kept out of office? Because we're not going to see all those changes until we have the right people in office. So we must drain the swamp. For me, that's the single most action that we must take in Kenya if we really want to get to that, those nice, shiny, glowing pictures that we were seeing. We must get the right leadership. And if we don't have the courage, by there are 20 people. Kimosop has said that this is our 58th National Coordinating Committee meeting. He's been here longer than I have. We will be in the 100th meeting, and we'll still be talking about this if we don't confront not even the feces, the devil sitting in public office. We must clear them out. And our institutions responsible, EACC, IEBC, all those responsible for vetting, please don't let us down next year. Kazi kwenyu. Ngia bonga. You've talked so much Kiswahili. I thought I should at least learn some Zulu, and thank you for the presentation and for the inspiration, especially how South Africa got on the list. And I believe the institutions here responsible have taken their learning points. But thank you very much. This meeting was very good, and we have good action points going back to our institutions and our sector to make sure that our Kenya becomes corruption-free. Thank you.
Thank you. Sheila. Quite a number of hands up. So let me hear from, is it Wamweru? Okay. Okay. Yes. After that, we'll get responses, then we take another round.
Yeah, thank you so much. My name is Bishop Stanley Mwalili. I'm here on behalf of the Evangelical Alliance of Kenya. And I am very excited to hear the presentations that have come through. Very exciting news, and I think we're on the right path. I would like the chair to possibly say something about the EACC and KICD joint effort to bring the curriculum to our schools. Because personally, I feel like Kenya requires a national ethical blood transfusion. We are at a point whereby it's almost, as much as he assured us that there are many wonderful people, but I think we are almost irredeemably corrupted. And we need to think about how we can do it from the grassroots. And so I think that should be a matter that requires possibly much more attention than it is receiving. Thank you.
Thank you, Bishop. I think we are going to receive responses for those questions. There are almost about 6 of them, and around 5 of them are going to the chairperson. And therefore, I will invite the chairperson to make his responses. Then after that, Joyce, I will also give you an opportunity. Then after that, we will take another round while we manage time. Welcome, sir.
Now that I have the mic, let me take this opportunity to really thank our guest speaker for very, very insightful sharing. I was in the process of taking notes, but I almost took all the points that you had written. So I said, let me pause and listen. I will ask you for the notes so that I can look at them, because those are very, very practical examples that you have shared with us. Having said that, there are questions that have been raised. Let me start with our control budget. Root cause analysis is what you are about. I'll mention that when I joined the EACC, that was one of the things that concerned me. Why are Kenyans corrupt? Why do Kenyans engage in corruption? And that analysis is there. I also teach in a university, PhD class of students is doing a on the root cause of corruption within our country. And it's coming out in a very interesting, with very interesting findings. It's not yet concluded, but it's one of those things that I believe that we should share when it finally comes out. But the greatest indicator are 2. One is culture. We have got to the place where we have accepted corruption as part of our lives. So that even people who you think should be very concerned about corruption, they talk about it in a very casual manner and engage in a very casual manner. So that's why we are saying we need citizen education to clearly let our people know that the route we are taking is a route to destruction, so that we don't normalize the abnormal. I think culture is one of the biggest causes of corruption, so that having served as EACC chair for 6 years, when my term ends, the society will be looking at what have you done in that time, in terms of what I achieved, what have I put up, what have I gathered from, how can you be in government for 6 years and you're still like one of us? You know, it puts pressure on those people who are serving within public sector to try and do something so that they look like they are progressing. Culture is a problem. The other, of course, is plain outright greed. Where our people who are in government and who are in public sector sectors are just not satisfied with such as they have. So we want more and more and more. The most corrupt people are some of the wealthiest people in the country. So I wonder, what are you looking for? And I ask that question. What are you looking for? So those are 2 indicators, but we are going to come up with a very scientific way. You talked about rewards. I actually don't know where that thing disappeared in my slides. It was there because I thought it was there. Because we said we want to also institute a reward system. We recognize those people who are doing well in society, people who are standing out for ethics, for integrity, and for values, so that we celebrate them. So I thought it was in my slides, but I'm told it was. Maybe I didn't emphasize it in the process of presentation. Vincent talked about political will. I keep going back to my previous role as bishop. And one of the things that God gave us that is different from animals is will. You have heard the analogy that you can take the cow to the river, but you cannot force it to drink. Now the human being is even worse. You cannot even take it to the river. If they have, if they have refused, they are not going. So just by the way you have mentioned political will, it's not something you can enforce. It's not something you can require. It is a question of individuals who are in position of leadership, like you and I, being willing to do the right thing. And these kinds of fora, and we have very senior government officers in this room, the willingness of each and every one of us to enforce ethics within our areas is something that we must make a choice as leaders, that we want a better country. And that was the focus of my presentation this morning, that we should be willing, let us be patriotic enough to want the best for this country. I don't know how you can enforce political will. It is a requirement, it's a necessity, but it is something that we can only plead with our leaders to embrace that area. You also mentioned the celebrating the ethical, that's true. Compliance with Chapter 6. There is a challenge, especially when it comes to matters election. I know that we have blamed IEBC before. I'm not the advocate. But where I sit in EACC, we have a challenge, and it is a challenge that only we as citizens can rectify. It is within our constitution, not our laws. It is within our constitution that no one can be barred from standing for an elective office if they have not exhausted the full judicial system. It is in the constitution. It is written, and we voted for the constitution. So if a person has been convicted at a magistrate's court or a high court, court of appeal, if they have not reached Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court has declared them guilty, you cannot stop that person from standing for an elective office. Unfortunately, it is us who gave ourselves that constitutional provision. So whereas we can blame EACC, and we do normally send that information to IBC, but really it is for information, because they cannot do anything about it. They cannot stop a person. So people who have been stopped are people who have gone all the way to Supreme Court, and Supreme Court has declared them guilty. Those who are, it is easy. I don't need to mention examples, but you know them, who have been actually stopped and not cleared by IBC. So can we do something to change that law? In our neighboring country, Tanzania, the principle of guilt of innocent until proved guilty changes immediately on the first conviction. So the moment you are convicted, say, by magistrate's court for any wrongdoing, you are guilty until you prove yourself innocent. For us, you are innocent until you exhaust all the way to the court. It's a very interesting way of designing law, but that is where we find ourselves. Sheila, you talked about coordination and cooperation. Indeed, that is our theme for today, strengthening integrity through action. And what we are calling upon all of us is, can we work together so we work on this animal and not linder it, take it to belongs. Mwali Bishop, you talked about our collaboration with KICD. I see Mwalimu here. Was it Elizabeth? Rachel, eh? Mwalimu Rachel, please stand. You see that lady? This lady in Naivasha took all, stole the thunder from all of us, because she took us through the process of what is happening within, you may be seated, through education sector, and particularly in KICD. In fact, we were thinking, we didn't know that so much was already happening within KICD. The curriculum has been developed. It is rolled out on values, ethics, and integrity. And what we need to do is to support that process through our education system and other sectors so that it can gain more visibility and be given even greater funding and support from the teachers that need to implement that curriculum, but it is already there. That was a great information that we received from KICD that time. I think those are the questions that were directed to me. Is there any that I've forgotten? Thank you.
We can. Thank you. Joyce, there was a question to you on measurements. How did we measure the enhancement? Dr. Nyakango deals with fingers. So come and demonstrate how we did it. Okay. If you want to do it from there, you are still free.
Kindly allow me to do it from here. I knew that question would come on board. Yes, and the reason why our analysis is basically based on logical connection on the implementation of those interventions. Because as earlier mentioned, there was not really like a even baseline data from the previous Kenya Integrity Plan implementation. And that's why we are keen on implementing the Kenya Integrity Plan for 2023-2028, so that even the next people, be it we are there or we are not, they will not struggle to do measurements, to even have the very basics of coordination among sectors. So this was more of just an analysis on the data we were given, not scientific, but also to encourage us that progressive efforts are being undertaken in the sectors. Yeah, mine was one.
Thank you, Joyce. Quite hands are up. Allow me to start at the back. We'll take another round. Let me kindly request that this will be the last round. We are taking to finish by 1, but I know we will burst the time by a few minutes. So, Mchungaji.
Thank you so much. First, my name is Bishop John Dala. I am the National Coordinator of Hope of Kenya Pastors Association, and I want to thank you for this opportunity and what we had today. I was born in this city, I've been raised in this city, but we have been called for a meeting, EACC, or I've never heard of Cliff, so I've heard. Can we hear God? So to Ms. Findi, thank you for the presentation. Joyce and Dr. Oginde, Cliff and EACC. Mine is to kindly request, let us devolve what we are doing here today to the grassroots, because most of the things end here in the city. We hear EACC in the city. We see the TV in the news. But now, from today, let's bring this in the grassroots. We have 17 counties in Nairobi. Let's devolve this down there, because when we do that down there, it will have a ripple effect, and we are going to see the fruits. Thank you so much.
I think that was my comment. It is appreciated. It is not. You see, as regional offices. We have 11 regional offices spread across the country, which take care of the counties, but your suggestion is welcome. Thank you. Bring the mic to the middle.
Thank you. Thank you. Raja from Hindu, and I am a social worker. Now, I have three, maybe you can take them as comments or questions, I don't know. Let me start off. What Maria said and what Matt applied regarding the evaluation of how we have performed. You need to have, and I said this some time back, you need to have demographics that will show a clear picture of how it is moving. Demographics will have demographics bar or growth, knowledge that will give us a clear picture. It would be impactful of the language which we use. It will be impactful. That is my suggestion. I Gary has said it has really for me to this which we say option, and I very much agree with what did. It has to come from the truth, means from the school level. We need to teach our children the ethic values of what we are talking about. They need to understand because they see what the seniors do out there. But this has to be incorporated into the curriculum. It can be informal, not necessarily in form of a written. It can be supplemented by having debates, by having competitions with schools, high schools, universities. You integrate the schools and education, and this will help people understand where they are coming from. We can even understand where children are understanding also what out there that will integrate together. This is my question, I don't know, for the respective person. The third one, for civil society to be a lead role, to help the leader to be role, you need to give them the platforms where every individual society can within the or within because public requires warmth. They don't require fear so that they can come to us just like the hyena. No, we cannot do that. We need to approach to the public. We need to give them the just give you a simple example. And to be connected. I don't want to take much of time. A child who is crying, a child who is a bit disturbed, the contains that warmth, and the child feels relaxed, open up in that manner. That is the kind of methodology we need to implement the public. We need to give them the warmth. Though it can be detrimental because they take advantage of it, but there are ways how we can make them understand and come up. This is my suggestion, and I'm sure I see me performing some of these things to come closer to the public to do these things. We can do wonders. These wonders can be eliminated, but we need to have the positive way and people be, not to be not hurt, be hurt. That is the biggest thing. Thank you. I close that. Thank you.
Thank you for very good suggestions. I think the issues you have raised have been noted by the Secretary. They are not necessarily questions, but just to mention, in the just concluded National Drama Festivals, the EACC had actually supported a cluster on ethics and integrity. And the national award, the school which won the national award, was actually sponsored by EACC. And the third one was ethics and integrity. Thank you. So I suggest that before I come to Bishop Warani, I come to this side, front next to Commissioner Ogalo.
Thank you so much, Director Moore. Very brief. The mayor and the chief guest say that Cliff, through EACC, you've done a wonderful work. To me, information is power. Two, to EACC, you don't need to worry. It is better to fail at something than succeed at nothing. Yes, you have reached out to the people. You have told us what to do. The work stops to Kenyans. So before we leave KICC, ask yourself, what can I do to change the culture of corruption in this country? So the citizens' perception, culture, and attitude, I was listening to the Singapore journey. It was not initiated by EACC, similar agency in Singapore. It was initiated by the citizens of Singapore. We must go to the drawing board. And to take you back, as National Taxpayers Association, there was a time, chairman, if we can recall this country, and by that time we were also working very closely with the EACC. We were doing what is called citizen report card. And we were only targeting local authorities and CDF. And we didn't even bother for these people to be cleared by the Independent Electoral Commission, because citizens were empowered, so they were waiting for at the ballot, and they will send you a message at the ballot. And it really changed the operations at the CDF. So when you are telling us that you are going to really advance the policy so that we have strong citizen engagement, that is the beginning of changing the culture. And we cannot achieve, because look at the culture in Kenya. Today, if Patrick Nyangweso is arrested, you will see the same citizens who are complaining of corruption going to the streets. Oh, Banabdi, you are targeting our own. I don't know whether you will live in Kenya or we live in another Singapore. They are targeting our own. Yes. When there is audit general report, oh, they didn't do the white boat. Media, NTO will release a report. I want to ask the Kenyans who are here, go and read the report of the inequalities that were released by Oxfam, where we are over 50 million. Only 1,000, around 1,000 Kenyans, 1,200 Kenyans are able. They hold, it is like a remote in the room. Citizen Mbaya, KTN. Only 1,200 Kenyans are able to define your economic destiny in Kenya. What went wrong? It is us who contributed to them. It is us, Kenyans. So the road to Singapore, I want to tell Kenyans, it is possible. Bwana, it is possible. But how do we make it possible? The culture. How do we make it possible to empower our citizens? I tell you nowadays, Chairman, there is a lot of confusion. Some of us who engage citizens directly, you go to the villages, leaders tell you, I brought you the road. So they think Nyangweso went to Nairobi, he has brought us the road. They don't know that is their taxes. I brought you steamer. And these are learned people. Sometimes when I call for forums, I bring even KRA. The type of questions they ask KRA, they think KRA is the parliament. They think KRA is the Auditor General. They think the KRA is the EACC. So with all the degrees we have, we are not yet there to shape the destiny of our country. So let's invest in the people. The last comment I want to make because of time so that you serve us lunch, we have really talked, is the social accountability is real. It will really add a lot of value. The social accountability for the sectors who are here, it will really add a lot of value. Then chairman investing in research is very, very critical. Even when you talk to the president, sometimes I really listen to him. I like his ideologies. But the people who are surrounding him, do they understand how the country is operating? Government, we have not invested in research. Civil society, private sectors. Sometimes we stand in this forum, so we only blame the government. Let me tell you the truth. Go and read the illicit financial flows that was released by National Taxpayers Association 4 months ago. You will see the billions of shillings, taxpayers' money, that Chairman Oginde cannot even trace. Because we have digitized the corruption. And it is contributed by 2 major factors. The trade misinvoicing that happens across our borders, and the illicit trade that happens within our intra-county trade.
Thank you.
Let's change our attitude. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We have contributed a lot. We are very strong. Support Cliff. Cliff is going to stay, and Cliff will define the destiny of Kenya so that we reach Singapore. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. You have just asked us lunch. Good ideas have come through, and the emphasis is empowerment of the citizens, which is in line with the presentation which was made earlier. The CEO Youth Council. Talk to your people.
Good afternoon. My name is Gloria Wawera. I am the Chief Executive Officer at the National Youth Council. First, to confirm that the National Youth Council was indeed coordinated and by extension a lot of young people. This year that we are coming to a close of, we've done great initiatives under CLIF and EACC. We are working on a framework for youth engagement with support from some allies and partners to strengthen what we've been told to do, citizen engagement. And in particular, young Kenyans, I think we demonstrated in the previous years that we are keen on integrity in our country and that we are also keen to be champions and to embody integrity. But as has been said here, work does need to be done. A little story is told recently of a young campus student who was asked to pick between being James Mwangi and a member of parliament. I leave you to ponder what they may have chosen and why they may have been motivated in that direction with no prejudice whatsoever to either. But the point is, young people are ready, we're willing, we're eager to participate and to contribute, and the National Youth Council remains committed to continue to contribute to this very meaningful fora. As I sit down in the interest of time, I think we, the youth, are ready to winda fisi.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. The fees will not stand, the youth are in. Bishop Rally.
Madam has actually answered my question, because we remember June 2024, how that our youth came and made a statement. And they used AI-assisted tools. And the question is, can we use the same? And see where we can use art for peace. And most of the chairman came and sat. I missed the presence of the youth. Yeah, and I really would urge the National Council, bring them in, let them learn by exposure. When I look at my back, how the youth, to Jew, we don't know where they are. Are they again on the keyboard? Are they preparing something, another surprise? So can we, through EACC and all partners here, incorporate them fully. Let them be seen, felt. Let them bring their intelligence and the asset that these young people are having, and let them vent here. I appreciate this meeting. It was a wonderful experience. And our chief guest, thank you so much. May the Lord bless you.
Bishop missed the presence of the youth, but we are happy because we have the CEO of the Youth Council. Bishop makes us still think we are youth, but so responsibility of the CEO of the Council to bring the youth, not the young at heart. Let me one last bunny one. Oh, the Auditor General of the Republic of Kenya, Mayor of 𝗡𝗢𝗢, SCPA Nancy Gathungu. Take the floor.
Thank you very much, Moderator Mpue, and thank you, EACC, for always supporting us in Cliff. Yes, indeed, I'm a founder member. When I was young, not young at heart, Sheila, Julie, and quite a number of familiar faces many, many years ago when we started this initiative, and I've continued. I've not been very good in attending most of the meetings because the job comes with quite a number of challenges, and sometimes there are clashes. But to appreciate also our chief guest, she has taken us very openly and candidly through the accountability ecosystem of South Africa in fighting corruption. She has given us the strengths, the weaknesses, and the results, which is very, very important because we must always be clear in our minds where we are heading to and where we have come from. Mine are more of comments and challenges, and sometimes when I throw a challenge, I become very controversial. So I want first to say that it is critical that we collaborate. It's not a one institutional fight. We have the laws just like they have in South Africa. We have the institutions, so we have what we call robust legal and institutional framework in fighting corruption. But as Madam Findile also noticed, it's not enough. There are some weaknesses, and maybe there's a catalyst missing, or there's what we are calling willpower or willingness to actually implement these laws and fight corruption. Our laws give clear mandates and roles and responsibilities to all the institutions in that chain. And we must ask ourselves, is the chain always strong? Is it always holding together? All the links, I was writing very rough notes here as I was, just picking things from the presentations. When you see a clamor for institutions to be added responsibilities or roles and mandates that are already given to another institution, then you ask yourselves, do you transfer responsibility when there is failure or weakness, or do you do the root cause, as we talked about, to that institution or that legal gap that may be there on that institution so that it works? And I'm giving the example of Madam Findile, we are watching as auditors generals in the region on how my good friend, the Auditor General of South Africa, Madam Sakani, is implementing her new powers and authority on the material irregularities and recovery. She actually issues an invoice to state officers where she has discovered that there are losses and they are supposed to make good. But we also know that she's facing some challenges in that, and she's treading cautiously, but it's gaining momentum. And it has reached also Kenya, and people are saying, why can't the Auditor General of Kenya also get those powers and responsibilities? We are also watching Ghana. The Auditor General of Ghana also has similar responsibilities to recover. But he's also treading cautiously because it means that the roles and responsibilities of other institutions that should do investigation, that should do prosecution, that should adjudicate and take action are now being transferred to the institutions that are perceived as working. But in that, you add more responsibilities, then those institutions that are working will soon start failing. because they can't do everything. So it is important that we look at what is the root cause instead of transferring responsibility. And Madam Findile talked of Chapter 9 institutions. Here we call them Chapter 15 and many more. And each of them has a role and responsibility. They're anchored in the Constitution, they're anchored in the law, yet we are still talking about corruption. And the controversy now I bring in is, as we are talking about culture, are we sure? Have we done enough research? I've heard a lot about research. Is it culture? Or perhaps when now we start talking about corruption, we need to bring in clinical officers and medical officers. Because to me, it is now sounding like a mental health issue. If as a human being, you can't tell that enough is enough, in terms of wealth, amassing of wealth, in terms of the number of cars you can buy, the number of houses you can build, the number of bank accounts, including vaults, probably in houses. EACC probably has more details on this. It ceases being greed. It ceases being culture. I'm not a medical officer or doctor, but I think it now becomes a mental health issue. So perhaps we need to bring on board doctors now when we are discussing corruption. When EACC is investigating or arresting persons, they should have a medical doctor. Probably do some brain scans and some interrogations, because maybe we are not looking at the root cause of corruption in this country. I'm going to tie this to something that Bishop Oginde presented on the road to Singapore, because that has been the clarion call for the country. And we'd all want to achieve that. But we must first of all ask, and I'm glad you put that mkokoteni guy pushing, the gentleman pulling a cart. It's called mkokoteni in Kiswahili. If we are at the mkokoteni level, and we want to advance to a first world industrialized nation, what are the building blocks and how many years will it take us? He talked of a trigger, national outreach. As citizens, because we all stood up when we asked those who are citizens group, are we outraged enough, or are we still in that space of admiring those who are amassing wealth through corruption? If we are not outraged enough, then that trigger is not yet. But we must also ask ourselves, as Kenyans, can we learn the good and the bad? And the good is, must we reach rock bottom so that the only way is up? Because it looks like the road to Singapore had the Singaporeans going to rock bottom. Then there was that national outreach. So we are playing with fire. If we do not learn from, we don't need to reinvent the wheel and go all the way to rock bottom. So we need to do something. We need a critical mass of Kenyans who will come out through this kind of forum, the cliff, to ensure that we do fight corruption. I support the citizen engagement. It is very critical. I even have a directorate on citizen audits, accountability audits. But we must also ask ourselves, where is it anchored in? Our constitution talks of public participation. That is engagement. Why is it that we don't have the laws, the proper frameworks in place? I think our citizen engagement, public participation is being developed by the judiciary, judicial rulings and court process, where things are thrown out because there was no adequate participation. So why can't Cliff grab this and we lay the framework down on citizen engagement? Not just on corruption, but on decisions that affect citizens, so that the citizens are always on the watch out that when the decisions are being implemented, they are not being implemented with corruption as the main objective. So that is food for thought. It's a challenge to us. We look at this, but also a question that must we hit rock bottom so that now we can have clarity of mind on the road to Singapore. Thank you.
Thank you for the comments. The next activity will be a networking lunch. Therefore, it is recommended, because I can see we have very many ideas. During that session, we can still continue to exchange ideas because we will have many other sessions of meeting. Chairperson, your next PhD student, you may ask them to research on that research proposal which has just been given by the Auditor General, whether corruption is a mental issue. you may recommend a topic to that effect. With that, allow me to bring this plenary to a close so that we proceed to close the meeting and go to lunch. Because I do not intend to come back to the podium. Remember, it is a business meeting. It was convened. We still have one more agenda called any other business, and therefore I'll be inviting the chair to come with that agenda as we use this. But once that agenda is done, I will humbly request the representative of the Indo Council, you will give us the final prayer. And we will proceed for lunch. We are invited for lunch. We will be guided by the Secretariat immediately we get out of the door. Thank you. You have all done very well. Once again, thank you so much, our chief guest, the Director General of the Presidency, South Africa. Secretaries, what we used to call permanent secretaries in South Africa, are called Director Generals. So that you can relate the powers of the chief guest. Welcome.
For leading us very well this morning, afternoon. It's time to bring this meeting to a close. Before I ask for any other business, our chief was accompanied by her ambassador to Kenya. We had not acknowledged him. Please, if you could just rise so that we appreciate you and just say what to the people.
Thanks, Chair. Habari zenu? Nzuri. We appreciate the EACC for inviting our Director General as the chief guest for today. We appreciate that South Africa has been recognized as one of the countries that you can engage and cooperate with and hold these discussions, sharing information, and as the DG has said, also learning from yourselves. And we hope this is not the end. There was a mention of an agreement. I'm not sure if it was you, Chair. Yeah. Attorney General, yes, yes. So that is also appreciated. I think it's something that can be looked into, and we'll keep, as the High Commission, engaging with the EACC and see how much more we can do together in enhancing our bilateral relations between Kenya and South Africa. But asante sana for this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. He speaks fluent Kiswahili, but I can see he chose to. Thank you very much for coming and for bringing, accompanying your Director General, who has spoken to us so well and shared the good, the bad, and the ugly of South Africa. As a government official like yourself, we would be able to do that about our country in a foreign country. But you have shared with us yourself, so we really, really appreciate. Members of NCC, we are bringing this to a close. Any other business? Bancheboyo, is it that the name?
Yes. Yeah. So, thank you, Chair, and apologies, members, standing between your lunch and other businesses. I just want us to, first of all, to thank you for inviting the guest. We didn't have enough time to really engage her. Hopefully, in the near future, we'll have time to engage the guest and others like her. Secondly, Chair, all what was said, I want to urge the members that we really make sure that we are there to it. This journey is a journey of sacrifice, and we really need to make sure that we achieve. Last but not least, Chair, you also alluded to it. This is a serious campaign, serious platform, and since you indicated, I don't want Cliff, as being serious members, as you earlier said, to enter into any problem with any agency of government or citizen. Chair, our citizens are very, very direct people. When we go to them and tell them, let us win that peace, they will do it literally because they are looking for wafisadi. So I'll ask the Chair, as part of AOB, we relook the slogan so that we just win the mvisadi, so that it's direct to the point, so that we don't run into any problem. People will go with that easy. Thank you, Chair. I sit down and I raise my case.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I also think Kenyans are very sharp, so they will not win you unless you are a fisi. So anyway, we'll look into that. The other thing that I would say as we now close is that we did not have time to share with you a practical way forward, because this is going to involve mobilization of all of us, and we mobilizing others within our reach, within our areas, spheres of influence. And so we are going to be calling upon various sectors and share what can we do within our own sector and how will that look like, so that by the time we are meeting here next time, we'll be reporting actual results of what we have done. We believe that if this is carried out in the right way, it could significantly reduce, if not eliminate, corruption. Because the corrupt live among us. They are our brothers, they are our sisters, they are our leaders, they are our fathers, they are our mothers. They are not strangers from hell. I know some people call them devil. Was that shit? Yeah, they are devils, but the devil is in your house. So how do you get rid of that devil? You come to me for lessons on exorcism. How we command and we bind and release into the sea those kind of devils. So we will need to work on a framework, and it is there, that a draft that is there, and we are going to be engaging with each and every of our sectors on how to implement the same. But thank you so much for the contributions that you have made, and now it is my singular and positive responsibility to declare this meeting officially closed. Thank you very much. Come on, pray for us.
Will just be 15 seconds. I request everyone to stand up so that we can join our short one. Thank you. We bow. Om Bhur-Bhuvah-Swaha Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimai Diyo Yo Naha Prachodayat. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Thank you. I'll just give you the meaning is we believe that the sun, the God sun, the sun which he throws to us, it cleans us, and we all move forward happily.